One, two, three. Hello, and welcome to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. X-Men Origins Wolverine review from 2009.
Aren't you happy I suggested we do the movie, Stefan? Aren't you happy? Aren't you just ecstatic? Aren't you
It's
living
starting
your
to
best
wear
life?
on me a little bit, I will admit. It's
You
starting
know
to wear
what?
on me.
There's one. Well, let's introduce our guest and we'll get into some chats.
Starring Hugh Jackman, Liev Schreiber, Ryan Reynolds, Will.I.am, and Taylor Kitsch, because why not? That can be a cast for a movie. Why not?
Sure. Danny Houston. Houston's a good actor.
Yeah, it's true. We are your hosts, of course, Davan and André, and we have a guest with us tonight from another fine podcast, the BS Bargain Bin podcast. That's right?
Yeah, that is.
Sandro, is it Luketic?
Is it pronounced Luketic?
Yeah.
All right.
Sandro Luketic. Thanks for joining us, Sandro.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for reaching out and wanting to be in the show. I met Sandro's partner on this other podcast at the Taz Records. He's a big B movie horror fan like myself, and we got to chatting. We have a lot in common, actually. I feel like Ben and I could be really good friends. It's in a future world, another world, and perhaps the future. The amount, like, just chatting with him about those movies is a blast. So your podcast sounds like a hoot too. So I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, we do a movie podcast every week, and the whole idea behind it was to try and put a spotlight on movies that people don't necessarily talk about all the time. And I think that's where you guys kind of met in the middle, where you really got into a whole bunch of stuff that not many people know until they walk into the store and see on the shelf. And that was just really the whole intention. Then he told me you guys do an X-Men podcast, which I was super excited about. And luckily I missed the entire run of the show and I get to be on for this one.
Well, it's still going. And you can always go back and listen to the other episodes.
Immediately regretted his decision.
Sandro, have you guys ever done, on Saturday I watched one that I deeply think is one of my favorites of like the cult classics no one's ever seen category. Did you guys ever do The Hidden?
No.
Oh, do it. The Hidden. It's Kyle MacLachlan from like 87. And there's like, I don't want to tell you too much because it kind of ruins it, but it's like a super breakneck, fast-paced, crazy movie about regular folks that are like law-abiding, happy citizens, bankers, citizens who just suddenly snap and start driving, like stealing sports cars and listen to heavy metal music and robbing banks and killing anybody that gets in their way. And then Kyle MacLachlan plays an FBI agent who is equally mysterious, trying to inform a local beat cop who's trying to figure out what's going on about what's going on. And it basically what it is moves between bodies, and it's not necessarily of this world, but it's very interesting and very cool. Highly suggested. The Hidden.
Was it good?
Very good. I give it 4 stars.
That doesn't sound like our MO.
Well, like good in the way that like you would like those sort of movies. You know what I mean? Like it's, I don't know if like a real critic would give it such a high rating, but because I love movies like that, I gave it such a high rating. It's very
It's a good thing because I'm not a real critic.
Exactly.
The entire premise of the podcast was that Ben, who grew up around movies, went to school for television production, knows every movie under the sun, gets to share his very well-knowledged views on a movie, and I get to watch it as just the everyday guy who knows nothing about it and shares his views as just the everyman. So
I love it. I'll suggest it to him. It's fantastic. He definitely knows what it is, I'd assume then.
Well, just to give everybody a peek behind the curtain, he does pick all the movies. So most of the time, it's him subjecting me to whatever whim he's on that week.
Perfect. That's awesome.
I'm a bit of the everyman over on my movie podcast. Hold up a movie podcast. Yeah.
You guys are doing music movies next, is that right?
Yep.
All right.
Jaemeel's definitely going to make us watch a musical.
Well, if you're going to do movies about music, I think a musical should probably fall in there somewhere.
I guess I was going to do musical as like a whole nother theme, but whatever.
Well, that makes sense too.
Yeah. Well, whatever. It's all good. Let's get into this, shall we? So you know what this movie needs? I got it taken care of because it wasn't in the movie. All right, let's roll, boys.
The costume apparently it was almost in like the Wolverine or one of those.
We need a yellow mask or something.
You know what I gotta say?
It's a Wolverine movie. We get nothing but leather. Come on.
I've had this conversation with a friend earlier because we're at a thing, and I don't know if it's time because I've seen so many bad movies since when I watched these the first time, or if that the cultural bar has been lowered for movies all across the across all movies. But these aren't as bad as I remember. They're not good. They're not good, but they're not the dumpster fires that I remember. I remember absolute utter garbage. And like in watching X-Men Last Stand and then this one, I'm like, you know what? There's some stuff that's okay in this. Like, it's okay. It's not great. This one especially is pretty cliched and full with a lot of like just dumb. But and especially if you're looking for like reverence for the source material, you're not getting a lot of that either. But as far as like
yes and no.
Yes and no. Although there are a couple characters they shoehorned in that I think you're going to be angry about because I don't think you know who they are when I tell you who they are. But we'll find out.
Oh
later.
My God! Okay.
We'll find out later.
I think the big thing about this movie is that the best way and perhaps only way to enjoy it is to take all of your knowledge of X-Men, whether that comes from the comic books, the animated series, wherever your lore knowledge comes from, push it out of your mind and just watch it as a movie that has no ties to anything else.
Yeah, that's true.
It can be okay for a movie, but it's bad as an X-Men movie.
Yes, that's a great assessment. Great assessment.
I imagine referring to the mask there. Yeah, it is. Well, we assume. Yeah.
I feel like there's some clip that's like a blurred out action clip that you can tell he's wearing the mask. So I don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I feel like that they showed. So we'll see. But also
my opening thoughts on this movie is it's a tale of two movies. I've already kind of ranted to André about this a little bit already.
Well, like, almost every movie falls apart in the third act. Like any movie that's not a great movie, usually the third
all of
act
these
really
X-Men
falls
ones
apart.
do.
Yeah,
all of these X-Men ones do. Even the good ones fall apart in the third act.
Yeah.
But so I've watched like 45 minutes of this movie, and I was so surprised that I liked everything so far that I texted André, I texted cousin Dave. I was just like, "Hey, I'm watching this movie, and it's like, it's gonna get bad, right?" And then, yes. It sure did. As soon as he it's great right up until they turn him into Wolverine, and he breaks out of the Weapon X facility, and then it's just right off a cliff.
I love how Davan was like, I'm waiting for this movie to fall off a cliff, and later on he's like, "Oh, it fell off the cliff." I'm like, "Well, what point did you think it fell off the cliff?" And he's like, "When he literally jumped off a cliff." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense." That's right around the time that I probably would have agreed that it started heading downhill too.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to crunch the numbers on how I rate this later, but for the first 45 minutes, I would almost give this movie like an 8 or something, really good for 45 minutes. But the last it's long too. So for
it's
the
only
last
an hour and 45, hour 47 is what it is. That's including
really?
Credits. So it's only about an hour and 40. Not counting credits.
It felt longer.
I know, it sure did.
Well,
these X-Men movies were a lot shorter than I remember too.
That last hour, I would give maybe a 0. It gets so bad. So I'm gonna have to mix 45 minutes of an 8 with an hour of a 0 and see what kind of number.
It's so great too that they introduce so many fun X-Men characters and then kill them off unceremoniously and almost immediately. They're like, "Well, we're never using this guy again." Even one character gets mentioned that they killed him. You don't even see it. They're just like, "Oh yeah, I got to that guy," and then they're like, "Oh, okay."
Right, yeah."
And you're like,
"Oh my God."
It happened so fast that I almost missed it. I was like, "Oh shit, they did kill him. That sucks."
That's maybe the only thing that they have going for them in this is that comic book characters don't die. So you can kill off whoever you want in this movie and not worry about the repercustions to the canon because they'll just come back.
Yeah, especially mutants. Or it's like a joke within X-Men, how they never stay dead. Yes, I would prefer that.
Yes, Dan, he would have preferred that. Davan reminds me very much of a friend of mine. I guess an old friend. I don't really see him much anymore. But he loves all the old stuff. Loves it. to the point where you can never convince him that anything new is better than old, ever.
But I'm not like that with X-Men. I love the
I
Krakoan
know.
era.
You remind me of him a little bit. One time he was complaining about like the Hulk in the new movies. And he was just like, "Oh, it's all CGI. It's not a real." I said, "What do you want, Dave?" Like I said, it's like the year 2000 and like, I don't know, 10 or whatever this was. I was like, "What do you want? Lou Ferrigno painted green in a fright wig? Is that what you want?" And he was like I finally understood him. He goes, "Yes," like that. That's what we're gonna get.
If you've seen Ferrigno, he can still do it.
He could. He was in that Edward Norton Hulk movie very briefly.
Somebody give Brian Cage a call.
Yeah, well, yeah, he probably could do it too. But I feel as though we're at the level of CGI characters that aren't humans now. So, and that's pretty much here to stay.
I think it really just depends on the budget. New Hulk
true.
The MCU, great. New Hulk in, say, She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Doesn't hold up as good when you don't have the budget behind it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wonder, comparatively, where those budgets were, because She-Hulk seemed to have a pretty big budget.
Anyway. Yeah, She-Hulk was a big budget. That's why they don't want to do a second season of it.
I'd love to see them do more. I love that show. Anyway, you want to get into
let's
this?
Let's talk about this monstrosity.
I love how you even picked the cover from the British DVD, because it's got the Peggy markings in the bottom right there. So you went European on this. Very nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Classy.
So if you read the comic book Origins, featuring the origin of James Howlett, as we know as Wolverine,
up on my wall there,
we basically get about 5 minutes of that, in which we see a young sickly aristocrat who is being attended to by his friend, and then his dad comes in checking out. Then there's some ruckus. The dad says, "Well, it looks like your dad's drunk again. Take him home." The kid says, "He's not calling for me." You hear a gunshot. No, he goes out to.
That was a good line by the kid, though. He's not calling my name, sir.
Yeah, but it's also like it's very like just throw it in. It's like they're like, we got the origin. Like, it's funny because I read Gavin Hood doesn't read comics, which makes a lot of sense in the way this movie was approached. But
is that the writer of this movie?
The director. But I mean, the writer, I guess, would have something to say that. But it's almost like we would have got Origins not too long before this movie came out, right? Like the comic.
Yeah, it couldn't have been much before.
So they're like, we got to get it in there. Just cram it in.
The saddest thing about this is the year before we got something as good as Iron Man, and they still had the balls to release this movie.
Well, I mean, I don't know. The internet's right, but apparently Hugh Jackman almost was offered the role of Tony Stark, but I don't know if that's true or not.
What?
But turned it down to keep doing these. So who knows?
Oh wow.
But yeah. So honestly, I would have loved to just see this movie be this. Just like do this whole story, have him, because I know you don't have Hugh Jackman really in it till the end, but the idea of just getting young James in that whole story, with some tweaking. I always thought the original Origin comic was kind of dumb that they didn't make Dog Sabretooth. It seems so obvious. So, but
yes and no. Like the whole time reading it, I thought he would end up being Sabretooth, and he wasn't. But
then they try to retcon.
I'm glad he's not, because I don't
it just would have made so much
has
more
to be related all the time.
That's comics, Davan. Everybody is. Everything is.
Yeah.
But especially since they're so connected powers wise. But I guess there are a lot of characters that are brother and sister that don't necessarily have the same powers, or whatever. But anyway, so we get the vibe that this kid is very sickly. And this neighborhood boy, who we also get the vibe, and there's a lot of getting the vibe based on how this is filmed, is hanging with him. His drunk dad shows up. The kid's father goes out to investigate. We hear a gunshot. Young Logan jumps from, I'm getting ahead of myself. Spoiler alert. Young James Howlett jumps from his bed and runs out to investigate. Sees his father's been shot by the Creed. He's Creed in this, right? Yeah, because he was Logan in the other thing. So I'm mixing my sources. So Logan runs out. James runs down to find his father.
Or was he Logan in this?
He might have been Logan.
He was Logan in this.
He was Logan.
Yeah, he was Logan in this.
Yeah. Thomas Logan, yeah.
Yes, that's right. So why is Creed? Why is he Victor Creed? Yeah, all right. So anyway.
See, that's why they shouldn't be brothers. That's why this movie's dumb.
Howlett pops claws and attacks the Logan. Impaling him against the door, and as Logan dies, he tells him that that guy wasn't his dad. He was, so he's dead. The mother confirms it. thinks he's some kind of monster. He runs out into the woods, is tackled by his friend Victor, and the two of them, realize that they're half brothers and they got to look out for each other, and they run off into the wild. Then we get a pretty cool little opening sequence, which shows Wolverine and Sabretooth growing up together and fighting in every war from the Civil War up until World War II. I don't think it shows them in Vietnam. So
I already have.
It does show them in Vietnam in the helicopter.
Is that Vietnam? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was, So, of course it does show up in Vietnam because that goes right until they get in this firing squad. Yes. What are your questions, Sandro? Well, I'm sure we can't answer them.
I'm not a reader of the comic. My knowledge of X-Men came from the animated series. That's what got me into it. And that was the lore that I know. I can accept the fact that they're half brothers for some reason, because to my knowledge, at one point they were supposed to be father and son, and then later no relation.
Yeah, currently I believe it's no relation.
Why?
No relation.
Like, as just a movie viewer who's tuning into this, you're like 5 minutes in. Why is his dad dead?
Yeah, well, because they have to go off on their own. They have to go on their own little adventure.
Why would you open that for an audience that could potentially be fans or not fans of the lore to not explain it any further?
Yeah,
it's
because they want to shoehorn in the origin. That's why.
It's just like,
it was a big comic at the time.
Yeah, and okay, Bone Claws was new to me at this point, but
it was new to everybody. It was just released in that comic year.
No. We knew he had Bone Claws before.
Oh, from the 90s, right?
When Magneto took the adamantium off his.
Never mind.
We knew
this was just the origin of the Bone Claws.
Yeah, so that's perfectly fine for the lore standpoint, but from a movie standpoint, just give me some rationale. Don't open that can of worms if you're not going to do anything with it. And then these two Canadians are fighting in every single war,
and they never explain why they have such a tie into to America at all. Like he even says I'm Canadian. He even says I'm Canadian, but they never explain why they felt so ingrained. Maybe it's because they were so wild they sought war.
Well, do we know that
they find it
in those World War I and World War II scenes? Do we know they were fighting for the U.S.? Like they could have been Canadian soldiers,
based on the fact that Stryker knows who they are and has some big file on them and mentions all the wars they fought in. I'm guessing it was for the American side.
I'm not sure how many countries go on the beaches of Normandy like that.
Yeah, they didn't. I guess they could have been in the Canadian. I guess they just fought all the wars whatever side they could get on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, why they were down fighting the American Civil War? Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe they were just living down there,
Yeah, they went back for World War I to fight with Canada in World War II.
Maybe.
I just spotted two instances of foreshadowing in this intro as well.
Oh, yeah?
First being that before they get captured into the firing squad, they do say back to back.
Yeah.
And that's the only kind of backup you get to that. And you do see Logan start kind of eyeing up Victor a little bit inquisitively when he's just starting to feel the bloodlust and killing, which comes up a few times later. But it's a pretty cool intro. I just don't know what's in this movie.
I like that intro quite a bit, actually.
And it's kind of neat how it all bleeds into the next one. So, like, it's like one guy gets hit by one thing, and when he reels back, he's hit by something else in the future war. And it goes off from there. I like
that whole like filling in that time frame. Like,
I have a question.
Movie's just filling. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, just something I've never thought about to this very moment. But like evolutionarily, animals grow claws. They don't grow claws that rip out of their own skin and then go back into their own skin. It's just like as an evolutionary way to say why you have bone claws. It doesn't seem to line up.
I mean, at least his evolution gave him the healing factor to heal from it every time.
I suppose.
But anyway, it kind of sucks. It kind of hurts.
It's got to hurt every single time you use your powers. So the end of the sequence ends with them in Vietnam, and you see, Victor Creed going all out. Basically, when they try to stop him from raping a woman, he kills his commanding officer and then starts attacking anybody that tries to stop him. To which Wolverine comes to his aid. Yeah. The two of them get taken down and put in front of a firing squad, in which we see them get shot. But then wake up so then we see them all get shot. We get the big final credit, Wolverine Origins. Then we see them in a prison where obviously they don't die from being shot because they have a healing factor. Then they're visited by William Stryker, who you recognize as the villain from X-Men 2, and we know has a past with Wolverine. fun side note, I have a lot of, since we're doing the what we like and don't like throughout the episode, and I'm saving some fun points for the end. I will scatter a few in, but I'll save a bunch for the end. Fun little note: they gave him a big silver cross on his lapel throughout this as a little nod to his comic book counterpoint that was a preacher. So that's fun. So he recruits them because he knows that he needs putting together a special squad of mutants to do extra jobs for the government that the regular folks can't do. Sabretooth is drawn to the idea of the fight, and it gets.
What's funny though? Like their father's name is Thomas Logan, and they go by James Howlett and Victor Creed.
He still goes by Jimmy.
His name. Yeah. Neither of them took his name though. He must have been a real piece of shit.
I guess maybe Creed's mother was cool and he took her name, or I don't know, they weren't married.
Yeah, maybe that's where the name came from.
But it's still dumb. It doesn't explain anything. It's just like this is very shoehorned in. So when we get to them pulling jobs for the government, ending with one that happens in Africa. The squad is made up of Wade Wilson, played by Ryan Reynolds, Stryker, Sabretooth, Wolverine, John Wraith, who is a teleporter and has been in the comics before, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. Bradley, I believe, is the character that does something with electronics, played by Dominic Monaghan.
He's a character called he's a character called Bolt. He's from the comics too, but like barely.
Fred Dukes, who is jacked in this, as we will later know as the Blob, but this is pre-Blob, when he apparently has some kind of putting kinetic things attack him back against it. I'm guessing is his powers. It's kind of vague.
He just seems to have some amount of invulnerability. Blob has as well, so it's like because he doesn't get new powers when he becomes the Blob. He's just fat,
which is dumb.
It's stupid. It's so stupid.
And also Agent Zero, who is supposed to be Maverick.
They call him Agent Zero. I picked up on it this time. Yeah. I was like, holy shit, you're right. And they even call him Nord. Like his even name is John Nord or whatever.
North. His last name's North. Yeah. So they're pulling a job in Africa, trying to get something for Stryker. There's all this comedy stuff, which is just dumb, with some of Wade not being able to shut up and making jokes all the time and annoying everybody. Which is
love is a tattoo of a woman he just met. He's just like, oh come on. He's just like, I love her.
We're in love.
She's a gymnast.
Yeah, she's a gymnast. Kevin Durant and Ryan Reynolds are in a really dark Canadian movie by Adam McGowan called The Captive. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest it. But it's completely unrelated to anything like this movie. Anyway, they're on this mission for Stryker to get this thing from this African village. Turns out the thing they're getting is some kind of meteorite that the locals revere. That is, as we kind of guess, is adamantium. But Wolverine has had enough of the bloodshed and the violence and all this sort of stuff, and doesn't want any part of it anymore. So he leaves the team behind, and goes off on his own. He has a little bit of a stare off with his brother Sabretooth, but he says this isn't for me because Sabretooth is going too wild, and he just doesn't want to be part of this. So he's out. We see him. He lives in a little shack in the Rockies now. A really nice looking shack. It's got a beautiful glass door for like a kind of a hovel. But we see
what he's making $14,000 and $14,500.
Yeah. That's right. He now has a partner, Kayla, who we know from the comics as Silver Fox. She even called Silver Fox in the IMDb, but she's never referred to that at all in the movie, I don't think.
No, and it's like it has almost no resemblance to Silver Fox at all. That character.
Apparently, the actress does have some Cherokee origin, but she came under a lot of flack when the movie came out for not being an actual, until she revealed that she was an actual an indigenous actress. But apparently, she is. So
that answered Dan the Man's question here, though. Who knows? Maybe we'll get to Gifted or.
I wouldn't mind watching Legion actually, because I remember
I watched the Gifted too. It was quite good. I thought.
Yeah, I remember digging it, but I only watched like the first episode.
What,
I like,
yeah, I got like halfway through. No, I got pretty much to the end. I thought.
I like Dan Stevens, the guy that plays the main dude in that. And Aubrey Plaza's cool.
Well, and in Shadow King's the big bad, which is
that's Aubrey Plaza, isn't it? For the most part.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, we see that he's a lumberjack. He gets dropped off to work by his girlfriend. They kiss. Everybody makes fun of him. There's a carnival in town. I always like when they do like what Canadian town is this? They're in the Rockies. They're all lumberjacks. He lives in a mountain. They all seem really rustic, but like one of the most fanciest circuses I've ever seen comes to town.
But that's not in the same location.
Oh, it's close. It's got to be in the same town. Oh no,
the circus. They put a nameplate
right.
on the bottom saying it's Springfield.
You're 100% right. It's Springfield, Ohio. We're thinking of The Simpsons when that popped up.
Yeah. We also find out in the beginning that Wolverine was born, or at least they were living in when he was a kid in that scene in the Northwest Territories. Whereas in
not Alberta. It's in the comics, Alberta, wasn't it? Yeah. I like him better if he's not from Alberta. I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, no, and there's like, there's more Wolverines actually in existence in Northwest.
That's true. And how he gets his name in this movie is kind of unique too, actually. But so we see Bradley now works for a traveling carnival, doing a little trick with a light bulb, seeing if someone could turn it off. So they have all these options about clicking it off, unplugging it, even taking it out of the thing that it's in, but it still lights up because he uses his powers to keep it lit. So that's the joke. Obviously, he goes back to his carny hut, I guess, and it's like a trailer, and he has all this light bulbs hanging from the ceiling that I guess he just lights up for fun. But then he's visited by Victor Creed, who kills him, essentially.
Why?
Oh, well, we're going to get to that. Yeah, there's no real reason to kill Bradley.
If you
I get the rest of it, but I don't get
ahead,
why.
Yeah.
There's no reason whatsoever.
Bradley.
Kill Bradley. Like, really, there is no reason. You're right. There is no reason whatsoever to kill Bradley. They could have told Wolverine Bradley was dead, and he would have just assumed. No, actually, didn't he see it in the paper or something?
Yeah. When Stryker goes to recruit him, he shows him the newspaper.
He could have made a fake newspaper. And I love how it's like Circus Freak Murdered in Trailers, like the title. Like it's something really like not what would be a title of a newspaper. So we see Sabretooth. Wolverine is plagued by bad dreams from all the wars. Apparently, one of the storylines that was cut from this was he had PTSD from all his fighting in the wars.
He wakes up and she's just like, the war? Which one? He's just like, all of them.
Apparently, they wanted to have there's a whole through line of him having PTSD from all these wars. But the studio thought it was too dark or whatever, so they cut a bunch of it. This is probably a remnant of that because it never really plays into any more of it, though. Like, it doesn't really come up anymore. I mean, I think he has another nightmare later, but it's not relevant to the story.
It is a good thing she got up that night for a drink of water or something.
Yeah, because he scratched her a little bit.
To not be there at that very second. Yeah.
Yeah,
apparently when he wakes up from a bad dream, he stabs the bed to his sides.
He learned nothing when he almost killed Rogue in the same way in X-Men 1 when he woke up from a bad dream.
That hasn't happened yet. That's
some people should sleep alone.
But this is like this is his thing, just killing people in his sleep. So she gets a little scratch from it, but she's fine. They go back to bed. We see the next day at his work at the lumberyard, he's visited by Stryker, who tries to get him to rejoin because someone killed Bradley, shows him the newspaper clipping. He doesn't want to get back into it. He says, get back in the fight. You're an American, or you look at what I've done for your country. And he says, I'm Canadian. There's a fun little line, drives off. Stryker says, I know who you are, which kind of harkens back a little bit to like him saying you were always an animal. Although Wolverine is quite civilized in this whole movie. He's almost the most civilized person from everyone else. The director keeps saying in interviews that the whole movie's about Wolverine's dichotomy with like his animal side and his human side. I don't see a lot of animal side in this. He's completely he doesn't do any berserker rages or anything that he kind of even does in the other movies in the future. And maybe that comes after the surgery, but
at best, maybe the director is referring to Sabretooth as the physical manifestation of his animal side that he's fighting against.
Possibly.
Maybe. We'll give him that amount of credit, hey? Wolverine just wants to chop wood and live in his cabin.
He does. Make 14.5 a year. Chill. Yeah. The article says Circus Freak Murdered. That's what it says. That's the title with a picture of him doing the light bulb gimmick at the circus, which I think is really funny. Not very sensitive to the poor murder circus.
He's not even like a freak. He's just like he was just like a vendor. Like,
no, he did the trick with the light, but that
I
doesn't.
know, but like,
but to the average person, you'd assume that's a trick. He's not actually a freak of some kind.
yeah, exactly.
So anyway, also with Stryker is Agent Zero, who is still with Stryker as we see. Who apparently vague on his powers. Seems like he uses kinetic energy, something to do with shooting bullets in this movie. I know
Maverick has luck powers.
Not in this movie.
Mm.
So, anywho, Wolverine goes to pick up Kayla from school. We see she's a school teacher. He tells her the Stryker came, and she says, "What are you going to do?" He's not going back. They come up, man. This is the dumbest, stupidest fucking trope in these sort of movies. They come up on a guy talking to another guy in the middle of the road, completely blocking the road.
Oh yeah, I know.
And being a ridiculous bully about it. Wolverine's like, "Hey, can you move? We got to go." And he's like, "Me and my friend are trying to have a conversation here, man." It's like your cars are parked, completely blocking the road. And he gets violent right away, like irrationally violent, that this guy wants to move his car.
The script writer didn't work overly hard.
Silver Fox influences him, basically using powers which are Wolverine doesn't know she has, but we kind of get the vibe that she can get people that she touches to do what she wants. Although it doesn't seem to work on Wolverine, and not Sabretooth, as we learn later. Although it might have. If
it does work on Wolverine.
No, because she tried
to find out later.
Kind of, but she actually did care for him, which we'll find out later. All right, we're giving too much away. I'm sure nobody's seen this movie before.
We're saving them the trouble. That's the way I feel.
Basically. So they go back to the cabin. Everything's cool. He goes out lumberjacking. When he's lumberjacking, she goes into town in the truck. I just like the term lumberjacking. It's fun. So
steeplejacking's a funny one too.
He's just jacking's a good word in general. So Jack. So Sabretooth blocks her line in the car. We see him scratch up the hood of the car, and then Wolverine gets sensed something's wrong, runs off. He smells blood or something, I think. Finds
he sees like a decapitated Wolverine or something like that, and then follows the scratches in the trees.
Is that is what it is? Right. Yes. Yeah, he sees it. So that's the hint that Sabretooth's around. I forgot about that. That's correct.
But that head is like right next to where they're working. So Sabretooth must have been really close to him.
Well, he's leaving a calling card or whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
And Wolverine didn't smell him.
Well, that's exactly it. He must.
And it's even dumber. And it's even dumber later when we get to what really happened, which we'll explain later. But anyway, he finds her dead with blood all over, the car scratched up. He knows Sabretooth did it. In a nearby bar, Sabretooth's hanging out, scratching in the bar. Asks the bartender if he has insurance because he can hear Wolverine coming. Wolverine and him getting a big throwdown fight.
Dude, that's a cool scene because that's more from the comics. Like that's how I'm pretty sure how they met originally. Like in Wolverine number 10.
He killed Silver Fox was like something that happened in the comics. Yeah.
And on every year on Wolverine's birthday, he kills somebody Wolverine likes.
That's a hell of a body count considering Wolverine's like 100 years old.
Yep.
So they get in the big fight. Sabretooth breaks his bone claws off during the fight and buries him under logs. But then leaves Wolverine there, basically takes off. Wolverine's taken by Stryker and offered a role. Stryker offers to help him get Sabretooth to be strong enough to fight Sabretooth, which is where the adamantium comes in. So, he says the meteorite that he got from me before, that's adamantium. It's like the super strong material because Wolverine's the only one that can apparently survive this procedure that can meld it to his bones. And, the procedure is going to put him through hell, more hell than he's ever experienced in his life. The doctor
Why didn't they do it to Victor?
That is a very, very good question. Because Victor and him have the exact same powers, and they're brothers. Pretty much the exact same powers.
Victor's like working for them anyway.
Because in this, Victor's claws extend when he fights, but not like Eureka's, but like just out a little further.
Yeah, like that's like Sabretooth in the comics. He just
that's fine.
Claws.
But so he goes through the procedure. During the procedure, he hears Stryker say, "Wipe his memory afterwards," which drives him into a rage, makes him fight his way out of the machine, fight his way through all the guards. Carve a convenient X out of a wall and bust through it, and then run off into the woods, diving off a cliff, very much like like the character from The Fugitive. In fact, all I could think of when he was falling down the waterfall was
Harrison Ford.
That scene from The Fugitive. I can't remember the name of the character in the movie.
Yeah.
John something. Who was the name?
They're all John in those movies.
Well, the bad guy was the one-armed man, but I can't remember. Or was it? The TV show was like a long-running thing, but in the movie, Richard Kimball. His name was Richard Kimball. So yeah, then he runs away, falls down the cliff, and hides off to freedom.
Dave Cutler had it.
Thank you, Dave. I'm glad. Good to hear from you, Dave.
We'll see you soon.
Oh yeah, is Dave on a future episode coming up?
Yep.
Which one?
Well, I don't know. Look it up.
Okay. It's okay. So the scene where he's getting like the adamantium put in him is kind of cool. You see the drills going into like his face and all different parts of his body and injecting the adamantium, but it looked a lot cleaner than it did in X-Men 2 when they still had a place where they used it to make Eureka. And it also makes X-Men 2 kind of
never mind. Dave joined us for X2.
Yeah, he's already on X2, but I didn't think he's done any more ones.
Yeah.
So so he runs off. He's gone. The other government bigwigs that were in watching this seem nervous that obviously Weapon X. They refer to him as Weapon X, and its weapon stands for 10, the Roman numeral 10, which they seem to have to tell us for some reason, I guess, to make it so it's not obviously X is in X-Men. But anywho, we see a love. The other government bigwigs are a little worried about this development. Stryker doesn't look the best in the way this panned out. So we see Wolverine running naked through a field. He's viewed by an elderly couple driving a truck and hiding in their barn. Now, Davan. I just saw David come up, so I saw David.
Detective John Kimball.
John Kimball. That's kindergarten.
It's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
That's one of my favorite Marvel jokes. Like if we're reading Neymar comics, who's the villain? And you're just like, it's not a tumor.
We have to breeze through that first 45 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty easy too.
Now it gets bad. That was the good stuff.
Do you have any idea how many things I was holding back that were bad about that first 45 minutes?
Oh, lay it on us.
Jump in. That's what you're here for.
Jump in. Yeah, jump in.
I still want to interrupt when you're in the flow of going.
No,
that's how we do it on this show.
That's how we do it here.
Yeah.
We interrupt.
So, a couple of quick thoughts. When he finds her dead, he doesn't think to check for any wounds. Because later we find out that they just splashed blood on her.
What was it?
She's lying on the ground. Blood? She's dead. No.
Sabretooth, I don't remember. Did Sabretooth have the blood in a bag, or did he cut himself and splash her with it?
Something like that. They show it later in the movie. If he
cut himself and splashed her with it, wouldn't Wolverine smell that and know it was him?
And then maybe think to check for any sort of wound that might have caused that blood.
Yeah.
But
like smell what they injected her with, because they did inject her with some sort of drug.
Something to slow her heart,
Yeah, and there's so many questionable things, especially when he gets his adamantium.
Yeah.
When Stryker tells Zero to go after him and take his head off.
Yeah.
So you just put adamantium on his skeleton. You know that's not gonna work. You can't cut through his head because his neck is a bone.
And you just made him. Like, you're literally just made him.
Yes.
Like, let's destroy him.
That's what's bothering me this whole movie. Like,
yeah.
They spent all this insane amount of effort and money and use up the only person like they have to do this even with, and they immediately just want to kill him the entire time. Like when they blow, like they're shooting up that barn, they're like, let's see if he can survive this. I'm like, don't you want him to survive this? What are you talking about? Like
even the reason for all of this, like what all this leads to, is so convoluted and dumb. It doesn't make any sense if you think about it for any amount of time.
Well, it's like they celebrate their success.
Yeah.
They realize that if you're celebrating your success, you made him indestructible.
Yeah.
You just watched Zero shoot him in the forehead, point blank, and it just bounced off of him and his skin healed. Mm-hmm. And your reaction is to go cut his head off.
Mm-hmm.
You know that's not going to happen.
In fact, he's going to cut Zero's head off.
And I know this is a very odd nitpick.
Yeah, that's what we do here.
About his
not
claws,
in this movie.
Something about his claws really bothers me.
Oh, the CGI. I was going to say it.
Yeah.
There's
no,
CGI.
Not even the CGI. It's the bone claws.
Oh,
because they coat his skeleton in adamantium, and we see that the claws at the beginning of the movie are shaped like bones. For some reason,
that always
they have
bothered me in the
stuff.
comics too.
Yeah,
and then they come out as these straight razors.
So,
yeah.
The rest of the bone didn't alter. I don't understand this.
I'm guessing the
comics
bone,
are the same.
The bone goes to here, and then the metal extends beyond it. But then, how far? Like the bones that were in his hand would only go back as far as they underneath the skin, right? So you probably have because his bone claws are only like that thick. So
they're exact same length.
No, they're
when he
yeah, they are.
the dad,
those bone claws are the exact same length.
Well, they look a lot
and
cooler.
For some reason, they have like joint gaps.
Yeah, they have joints and everything, and like,
but they don't bend.
Yeah, as soon as they've metal them, they're like exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that because that has bothered me forever.
When you see him look at them in the mirror, they're so obviously CGI'd. I was like, why do those look so bad?
Yeah.
And then I realized that's it. Like when he first did, we'll get to that. We're not quite there yet.
All right, Dad, fine before. There was no reason.
I went back and watched the original X-Men after watching this movie because I just had to get some of the taste out of my mouth. And to just kind of go and compare a few of the things that they actually talk about in the first one. And the claws looked so much better. Like they
were real,
reflected surfaces and things like that.
Because they were real.
They were scary.
In this one, there's no like they don't reflect anything. They look like when you go to Toontown in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and like it looks like somebody had Wolverine Toon claws that they put on that they were holding. Like when
it
Eddie's
always comes back to Who Framed Roger Rabbit with you,
favorite
André,
movie,
doesn't it?
It's like when Eddie's holding a sword in that movie, and you're like, it's obviously a cartoon sword being held by a human being. That's what it looks like when he's holding those claws up. Anyway, Davan, you ready for the part that's really going to piss you off?
All right, lay it on me.
Do you know the names of that old couple that helped Wolverine?
Yes.
I
do. It's James and Heather Hudson. Is
Travis Hudson and Heather Hudson.
What? Travis Hudson?
Or what they are, Vindicator and Guardian, right?
Alpha Flight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's who they are. That's who they are listed as.
You know what? That's fine because Alpha Flight could have been a thing in the past, like Ant-Man was in the MCU and that sort of thing.
Well, I don't think these two characters were those two characters. They seem certainly perturbed by his abilities.
This is just an Easter egg. They never intended to explore this one.
Yeah, just because
Travis Hudson. What is that? If you're gonna Easter egg, just Easter egg.
So yeah, old couple find him. They invite him into their house. He goes into the shower. They tell he's seen some shit. They want to help him. Their son died. Apparently, they don't really mention when. Did he die in the war? It's vaguely said.
Just said the son moved out.
Yeah, they don't say a lot about him, but he left his motorcycle behind his jacket, and I kind of remember that he maybe died, but maybe not.
They act like it just by it's like it's belonged to my son, just like the way they.
If he was still alive, he's got a really shitty phone call coming up. So anyway,
sure does. Your bike's destroyed. Oh, and by the way, your parents
totally dead. So Wolverine is taken in by them, fed. When he's figuring out his claws, while taking a shower, he fucks up their bathroom.
It's a cartoony scene.
Yeah,
he's
so trying to hide the water, and he's like trying to hide it and knock it over.
Go ahead.
This was my backup to what, like, my real answer to Andre's question earlier in text form when he's just like, "When did it go off the cliff for you?" I said, "Well, when he jumps off the cliff," but really, it's when they shoot up that barn with the old couple in it. Like, that seems horrible, and everything from here on out is just really gets worse and worse and worse. Yeah,
they get wiped out pretty hard. So
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Do you have something to say, Sandro? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that scene in the bathroom when he's kind of exploring his claws, ignoring the CGI. It's such a cheap comic attempt. Like, oh, he cut the sink and he's comes out carrying the half of it and he's gonna pay for it.
Which makes no sense because he's always had claws. Yes, they're metal now, but he knows that like they're not new.
And he's even if they were new, clumsy is not a characteristic I would attribute to this character.
Well, they're a lot sharper, I guess. You know, I imagine his bone claws.
But he wasn't going to like run his bone claws into a sink, was he?
Yeah,
like,
fair.
Well, that's just it. The father or the husband or whatever, Travis, knocks on the door, and that spooks him enough that he cuts the sink in half and kicks open the furnace. It's a knock.
You think he would have heard him coming? He had all these animal senses, right?
Smelled him.
I did kind of like the line though. It's like you can sleep in the barn. There's nothing you can break out there. Like,
what I thought. Well, this is just another nitpicky movie thing, which is dumb because they find him naked in the barn, and then they bring him in. They give him clothes and say, "We couldn't let you freeze out there." And then they're like, "All right, you can go sleep in the barn tonight." It's like, well, didn't you just say freeze out there? It's like, and then he's sitting in a cot without a shirt.
Well, no,
on,
he's out there naked, Andre.
He's sitting in the cot without a shirt on, like in his underwear. Like he's pretty much naked. So anyway, while he's out in the barn, he's looking at the old man has a fancy motorcycle belonging to his son, and there they give him the son's jacket, which we'd recognize as the jacket he's wearing in X-Men 1, the brown and orange one.
Really like the Morrison run one, kind of where he just has the couple of stripes.
Yeah, and it's also kind of a throwback to his original yellow and orange or brown and yellow costume.
It's a pretty sweet jacket.
Or brown and black costume.
Yeah, pretty sweet jacket.
It is a sweet jacket. Although in X-Men 3 they add a little blue stripe to it. It doesn't look I didn't like it as much. But so yeah, while they're talking inside, the old lady comes in to bring them like fucking lemonade, and it's just a sweet little scene, and then she gets mowed down with a bullet like through the chest. Well, and then while Travis reacts, he also gets hit in the chest with a bullet. For a guy that's like a top secret operative, this Agent Zero who is firing a sniper rifle from a distance,
he sucks.
He certainly just kill the old people first.
That first,
I think that was his point.
Impressive.
It seems like that's what he wanted to do.
If you go back and watch that scene, she comes in with the tray, and the first bullet destroys the stuff on the tray, and the second bullet hits her in the back.
Yeah, so it went through her somehow.
It must have gone through her, but she doesn't react to the first one because it hits the tray of stuff, but it would have had to go through her because the window's behind her.
And he's only in one location. It's not like it's a bunch of people shooting. It's just him with a sniper rifle. So
yeah. And then it's the second bullet that she actually reacts to.
Yeah. So dumb.
So anyway, movie that killed a franchise. This is X-Men Origins : Wolverine. Like they planned on making more of these things.
It's like X-Men, let's start over. You know, because they had plans for a Magneto Origins movie and a Professor X, but they
X-Men Origins Magneto was supposed to be the next one, from what I read, and then
but they incorporated a bunch of that into First Class. So Wolverine gets the helicopter blows at the barn. Wolverine takes off on the motorcycle. He gets into a big impressive fight with the helicopter, slashing the blades. There's a weird little goof where the blades are going one way when he jumps towards them, and then when he slices them, they're going the opposite way. But nobody would probably notice that except me. So he makes the helicopter crash after slicing the blades off. Zero's all mangled and hanging out of the window, and Wolverine goes to turn his back, and Zero says something. I always find this dumb. Like Zero would have lived if he just kept the stupid mouth shut, but he's just like he's got to like say, everyone close to you dies, don't they, Logan?
Yeah, because you killed them.
Because you killed them.
Innocent people always die around you when I'm shooting at you.
So they're covered in gasoline. Wolverine uses his claws to make a spark and ignite the thing, and then obviously does the cool hero thing where he walks forward and the fireball explodes behind him.
They foreshadowed this a little bit in the scene when they were flying to Africa, and Logan was having an issue with it like flying, and he said if we were meant to fly, we'd have wings.
Yes, right.
And then Zero tells him, like, oh, more people die from car accidents than falling from the sky. And Logan says, well, what about being impaled? And then in the helicopter, he's impaled on the front windshield before the thing explodes. I kind of like that foreshadowing.
Well, what's the like? Yeah, I forgot they have a little thing about Wolverine being afraid of flying in this, which never comes up again. It comes up several times in this, but never comes up again.
In comics, he doesn't like swimming because he sinks.
Yeah. Well, also, like, think about if you. Like when he gets on the bike, it sinks low, and the guy says, "Well, you're heavier than you look," and he says he put on some weight recently, which is a nod to the fact he has a metal skeleton.
I like that. At least they mention it. They're like,
can you imagine how fucking heavy it would be to be 300, like have a 300-pound skeleton?
Well, that's why he's so muscular. Like he's such a little.
But he just got it.
Oh, I know. Like, oh yeah, in the early days, it must have been excruciating. Yeah,
I don't think anybody wants to see the movie of him laying down, just trying to stand up.
Exactly.
Metal. 20 minutes of
doing a sit up after like the first 45 minutes.
I got the pinky. So that we dispatch Zero. We see a Stryker being given an adamantium bullet from one of his tech guys that he can use to stop Wolverine. We also see
adamantium bullets.
Yeah. We also see him be questioned a bit by one of the government, one of his superiors, another government guy that would seem nervous the first time around. That doesn't seem to agree with what Stryker's doing. We also see a young Cyclops in high school who's who was wearing red shades and having headaches.
Why? Why?
Because
why are we visiting young Cyclops in high school?
Connect it all. Also, why did Cyclops never bring this up when he met? Well, he obviously
he had the glasses. He's blindfolded the whole time. It's so dumb. They just wanted to create this situation where, like, yes, there was this like long-standing connection between Cyclops and Wolverine, but neither of them knew about
Professor
it.
X
It's not clever. It's not funny. It's
Professor
dumb.
X with all his powers would have sensed Wolverine there when he was there at the end. So, like, why didn't he bring... anyway, it's so dumb.
I love that they
approach him then. Yeah.
I love that they come in. I forget who it is. I think it's one of the army guys. It's like, that mutant you've been looking for, we found him.
Yep.
It's Cyclops in a high school. You're telling me you couldn't find this guy? It's not like he's being protected by Professor Xavier right now. You just couldn't find this guy.
Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
and he'll be in detention a little longer because his teacher doesn't seem to care at all. He's like, I have a really bad headache. And she's like, well, you can think about your headache in detention today.
You can start paying attention in class.
How dare you not feel well?
And we'll get more of what happens to him. But anyway, we see Wolverine go visit John Wraith, another member of the old team who's a teleporter.
Played by the Black Eyed Peas, Will.i.am.
Trying to get some. It's funny because I was reading that Will.i.am went on like a boot camp to get in better shape for this. And I was like, why? He's not, he doesn't do, he's wearing clothes the entire time. He doesn't, do much. But anyway, he's looking for, and he's trying to find strikers. What strikers, Ray said that what they did when he was gone was round up mutants, and he feels bad about it. For Stryker,
special place in hell for the stuff we've done.
He's trying to find Sabretooth, and Wraith tells him that there's only one guy that's still buddies with Sabretooth that he knows of, which is their old friend Fred Dukes. But he wasn't
friends with Sabretooth. He was friends with Agent Zero.
Oh, was it Zero?
Yeah.
I thought it was Sabretooth.
No, I watched this movie 3 times this weekend in preparation.
Oh my god!
That's way more
dedication than
we would way more than required.
Our own show.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of myself right now.
Yeah.
You're like your whole family's like, honey, we said we were going to go to dates. Like, no, I got to watch X-Men Wolverine.
I noticed you seem to have like a photographic knowledge of the plot. You're like, no, you're missing this, Andre. Like,
I didn't want to correct you guys. No, he made
correct away.
No, correct away.
Correct away.
Correct away. You watched it 3 times. Let that knowledge flaunt it.
I watched it yesterday, and I'm impressed with how much I managed to retain from this movie. So
yeah, he made 18.5 as a lumberjack, guys.
Oh,
was it 18.5?
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw a video online that actually analyzed that and said that with inflation, that would be like $77K this year.
Oh wow, he's doing all right.
That's not bad. Wow,
that's pretty good.
It's really good.
We learned that I could swear that he was friends with Sabretooth. But anyway,
who's friends with Sabretooth?
Fred Dukes. But anyway,
no, he's don't they get Gambit's number from him?
Because Wolverine knows Zero's dead.
Yeah, but Dukes is friends with Zero. I don't think Dukes would still be friends with Sabretooth. I don't think anybody's.
Yeah, no, they all hate Sabretooth.
Yeah.
Okay. Anywho, so we meet Dukes, who has got a bit of an eating disorder. He's now incredibly
oh my god. Okay.
So this has nothing to do with his powers. He just got fat, and including the picture on his wall, Kevin Durant's a great actor. And he actually plays this really well, considering what he's in and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
but the character
is his fault.
No, it's nothing. He's great in this for what he does, but it's not
gymnast.
He can only polish a turd so much. It's still a turd.
I liked him in that initial scene.
Yeah,
and I would have liked.
This is awful. Like he gains an unbelievable amount of weight, like in an unbelievable short of time. Like,
He's basically Benjamin. He's basically the guy from The Whale. He's Brendan Fraser.
I think the idea is that the weight gain was a further evolution of his mutant powers, but they were just stupid and were like, oh, he must have just gotten fat.
Well, they even say they're trying to get him back to fighting weight, and that's why they have him boxing, because they imply that it was just an eating disorder.
Yeah,
that it had nothing to do with his powers. Although he's wearing
this isn't like Professor Xavier or Jean Grey. This is John Wraith, who's looking at him and thinking, I must have just gotten fat.
Well, yeah, maybe. But
there's
even
no
if
time to acknowledge
he is eating a lot, though.
Even if he got a cooler,
Blob does that.
Yeah, he's drinking a giant Slurpee, like when we first see him. But the tattoo is really big now. And then Wolverine says, I remember when she was only 85 pounds. And then he's like, it was pretty funny. He's still a funny guy, Wolverine. You know,
but like it's so like such a like so convenient though. He's just like, oh, Dukes is still around. Just like he's here in this very building. It's just like, well, that's convenient. Good thing you guys still hang out every day. Like,
so then we have to, of course, have a big boxing. He won't give Wolverine information, so Wolverine and have a boxing match in which Wolverine uses
the cage fight in the X-Men one.
Wolverine uses, for a guy that's indestructible, apparently just hitting Wolverine's hard skull through his own skull knocks him out essentially. Wolverine, although, you know, the second I saw Wolverine put on the gloves, I'm like, oh, here comes some scene where we're going to see the claws pop through the gloves. That's got to happen. It sure does.
There's one quick cut where Dukes punches him right kind of near the beginning, and he gets thrown out of the ring.
Yeah.
And lands on some random guy. It's like,
that would kill him.
Momentum to shoot that entire metal covered body. That guy's not getting back up.
If you had a 300 pound, like they say in the comics, he weighs 300 pounds, right? And being that Hugh Jackman,
no, it's more than that. Wolverine's like 400 pounds, I think.
Well, Hugh Jackman's considerably taller than he should be in the movie. So, assuming that you add that onto it, he'd be like 500 pounds. So, if a 500 pound weight was thrown with a lot of force on top of you, you're not coming back from that.
No.
That's like getting hit with a motorcycle.
Dude, unforgiving is adamantium too. It's not even like steel; it's adamantium. It's like so freaking hard. Yeah.
So after Dukes wakes up, he tells Wolverine that Sabretooth would be with Stryker because they always still hang out together. So then Wolverine starts putting 2 and 2 together. But then we also see Cyclops get kidnapped from his school when he's in detention by Sabretooth.
Because why not?
Well, because he's all part of the pool. It's all headed towards the pool. As we will get to learn. So then they how does Gambit play into this?
Exactly. How does Gambit play into this?
So Wolverine is trying to find out where he can get to Stryker.
Yeah,
and this is what Dukes tells him is that
he says one guy escaped.
One guy escaped.
Yeah,
which I find also problematic because later Gambit says he was there for 2 years and he's not going back. That's a long time, man.
But he readily goes back. That's right.
He'd be severely tampered with in 2 years.
Yeah. So they reveal that so he says that they take him to this facility upstate, but nobody knows how to get there except this one guy. He heard that, and of course they even say that the guards called him Gambit because he kept taking their money at cards. So this is how we learned about Remy LeBeau, who's the only one to escape. So he's their way to figure out how to get in.
Are you the one they call Gambit?
Do I owe you money? Later, and this is not where guards would be playing cards with the prisoners.
No, exactly.
Yeah, for true. And we get a little cameo with Daniel Negreau, Canadian poker player.
Yeah, Daniel Negreanu.
Negreanu.
That was my favorite part of this movie. Actually, it was the Daniel Negreanu cameo.
So they come across Gambit in New Orleans, who played by Taylor Kitsch. Star of John Carter.
John Carter and Mars.
Actually, he's in a great Canadian movie called The Grand Seduction, which is a remake of a Quebec film, which is also a Canadian movie.
I understand that at this point, the X-Men movies were just trying their best to get whatever famous actors, and I think right now was kind of the height of him in Friday Night Lights.
Yeah,
to show up in movies and play whatever fan service character that they can get to show up. And I was personally always the biggest Gambit fan. So
he's fine. He's fine. He's
actually fine.
He's a fine Gambit.
I don't think so.
No,
I think he's terribly miscast. I don't think he's a bad actor, but I was so excited for this movie specifically because it's Gambit. And even when I hear him start talking, I'm like, you're not even trying to do the accent right, man.
He's got a little bit.
A little bit. There's a few times where it slips.
Certainly not as cartoony as he is in the cartoon. Well, you think they're doing it up there? He gets a little crawfish over there. Oh. So anyway,
we love Chris Potter's Gambit.
So Wolverine, basically Gambit thinks that Wolverine's there to take him back. He works for Stryker. Gambit, obviously Wolverine doesn't. They use this card ability to charge up a card and hit Wolverine, knock him back. I would like to see more explosion. It just seems more like a kinetic thing than an actual explosion. But anywho,
that's what it's supposed to be. It's just like kinetic energy he's charging it with.
We see John Wraith, hanging out in the alley, and then he gets attacked by Sabretooth, and he uses his powers to float around him, but Sabretooth manages to get him through the chest mid-trans and grab his spine mid-teleportation.
Because you're predictable.
You're predictable.
John.
Sabretooth's pretty great in this. He doesn't say a lot or do a lot, really, but like Liev Schreiber was a good choice for this. He does look. Yeah. He wears a pair of fangs very well. When he smiles with those little fangs, he does look pretty sinister.
It's actually John Wraith that attacks Sabretooth.
That's true.
Yeah,
that is
punches him in the face. It's like, what was his plan? Like he just keeps teleporting around and like jabbing at Sabretooth. What is his plan here? Like that's never going to hurt Sabretooth at all.
Sabretooth essentially hints that he's taking care of Dukes, which is what sets John Wraith off. But then he says, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that because now I'm going to have to kill you." And his plan to kill Sabretooth, who he is supposed to be very familiar with, is to just punch him.
Jab him up.
Just keep teleporting around and jabbing him.
Okay, no, John, get out of there.
It's a numbers game.
You're a teleporter. Just teleport away. Go
live,
to the other side of town.
John.
Live.
Although Liev Schreiber has a great line here where he does grab him with the very flimsy, predictable reasoning, but he says, "I can feel your spine," and then just before he pulls it out, he says, "I didn't know you had one."
That was a nice line. But then when Gambit and Logan are fighting, they fall out of the building. Logan sees that Wraith's been killed by Sabretooth when they go through the window, which this seems okay. Gambit gets up ready to fight, and Wolverine doesn't care about him anymore and basically just elbows him and then goes after Sabretooth. They get in a big knockdown brawl, which also is funny because it's broken up by Gambit, who comes in with the stick and makes a big explosion between them.
Wolverine's finally like about
why didn't Gambit just run away? He's like, all right, well, these guys want to take me in, was as far as I believe up to this point. So when they're distracted, why didn't he just go?
This Gambit is an idiot.
Yeah.
Because Wolverine approaches him and says, "I want to kill Victor Creed." Gambit assumes because he sees the dog tags that he's lying and that he's there for him. After Wolverine knocks him down, he runs 3 blocks away because you see him running across the rooftops to do this little twirling thing when he breaks up the fight. It's like you were just on the ground next to Wolverine. Yeah. You ran away to come back, double back to break up the fight, and you can see that he has Victor in his grasp, and you want him to kill him.
Yeah, you know who Victor is. He kept you in prison for 2 years.
At this point, I'd be like, okay, your claim that you want to kill Victor is probably true.
Yeah.
There's the
let
man.
it happen. Oh, there he is. Look at that. So the big fight anyway. So Sabretooth gets away when that happens.
6 months. 6 months that took. No.
6 years.
6 months. Wow. It's a hell of a fall. No, I know, but the 6 months would be funny. Yeah. So there's an interesting little fight sequence where Gambit's like trying to get away on fire escape, and Wolverine's like slicing the pieces of it away and making it fall down. So anyway, Wolverine manages to connect with him and explain that he really is serious and wants to stop this. So Gambit's on board, I guess. You're serious.
Okay, you can fly helicopters.
I'll fly a helicopter for you. So we see
they're just buddies all of a sudden. It makes no sense.
And this is where we get a lot of we hope you saw the other movies because none of this is going to make sense otherwise. Where we see that Stryker's looking at a boy with 2 different colored eyes. It's frozen in a tube, which, as we know from X-Men 2, is his son, Jason. And then he's called into the meeting with his superior, the general, wherever that guy is. I'm assuming he's a general based on his look. He keeps reminding me of the guy that played Scully's father on X-Files. It's not the same actor, but it looks like him. He was on Twin Peaks too. But anyway, this is where he's called into this meeting where the general says, "Look, we think you're unhinged. We know we just found out apparently that about your son and how your wife got killed because of your son's a mutant. You're
like, it's got nothing to do with that."
He's
like, you're maybe a little too close to this, don't you think? He's like, no, of course not.
You mean the general who had no issue with them harvesting mutants to implant into another mutant thinks that now he's too close because he found out that his son is a mutant? Yeah. But prior to that, you were totally fine with this chain of events.
Well, even the guy's been doing this, like operating on mutants and fucking them up and all this sort of stuff for like years, like many years. And now you're like, oh, wait, he has a son?
This general watched the whole Weapon X procedure.
Yeah.
And now he's like, oh, you have a mutant son. You're too close to this.
So
tell me, fellas, do I look like Wolverine or two bearded Batmen kissing?
Two bearded Batmen kissing. I'd like to see more.
You can't unsee it.
Well, the eyes are a little high if it is Batman, but I have seen those sort of memes before. So anyway, Stryker uses one of Wade's swords, which happens to be nearby, or one of the swords from the procedures, to kill the general to stop him from taking him off the project.
It's a much smaller version of those swords.
Yes, which we see more of later. So we see a small seaplane taking Wolverine to 3 Mile Island, which we find out is where the secret base is underground, because nobody would bother them there because everyone's afraid of the radiation. So
like, there's the freaking places in their secret bases, like in the last movie X3. They're just like, yeah, our secret lab is on like Ellis Island,
Alcatraz Island.
Oh, I know, it was on Alcatraz. That's right.
And before that, it was in underneath a former base out in Alkali Lake.
Wolverine goes looking for Gambit in order to have him lead him to the island. Why couldn't that have conversation just been like, yeah, it's on 3 Mile Island?
Yeah, you can go there yourself. There's a boat. Just get a boat. You can take it out.
You need a guide for a well-known area. Okay.
It's also a very un-Wolverine thing where he just like jumps into the water and like he's like, is it gonna hurt? He's just like, oh yeah, it's gonna hurt. And he just like, he like skips. He's like just skipping rock. But like Wolverine wouldn't, because it's gonna hurt anyway. He wouldn't do that because he sinks. Like he would just drive by Alcatraz Island and just like throw himself into a wall and like try to grab onto it or try to hit ground. Like he wouldn't go into. There was no reason for him to get wet and be in the
adamantium
water.
Skips like stones. So
yeah, well it does.
You see him
pinwheel resonance.
Just see him pinwheel out of the helicopter and like a stone and just hit the water and just keep pinwheeling it. It looked like a skip stone. That'd be amazing. So he just jumps out of the plane. Gambit leaves him there. He goes inside, sees Stryker working on his next project, then comes to the horrifying realization that Kayla is still alive and has been working for Stryker the whole time. And this is where we learn. The
relationship was a lie, André. It was a lie.
She says she actually did care. Well, we'll learn that for that.
She lies.
But Sabretooth injected her with some kind of a thing to make it seem like she was dead. And I just watched it. He used a bag of blood that he cut, and so she could have been saving her own blood maybe for this very reason. So that kind of works.
For her is also cinematic gold because the camera pans and she's standing right behind him. It's like, where did she come from? You didn't smell her.
And there's no hallway or anything. She's just there.
Sabretooth is just crouched in another part of the room watching, and Wolverine doesn't smell him either.
Well, and it's so dumb too because they're like, "Yeah, we played you, man," and then Wolverine's just like, "I'm done with this," and just turns to leave. He's like, "I don't want to kill anybody anymore. She hurt my feelings. I'm going home now." Like he's still
Wolverine's
it's on a death mission the whole time, but the second he realizes that his girlfriend lied to him, he's like, "I'm out."
That was one good line though. Actually, that reminds me of where Stryker comes back to recruit Wolverine. He's just like, Don't you miss like some real action stuff and all? He's like, well, I don't know. I find I kill a lot less people lately.
And then she says, "Let my sister go." Is where we get the idea that Stryker has something on her, which is why she did this. Because of course we need to do this for a PG-13 movie to make the love real and everything fine. So then Sabretooth attacks Wolverine when he's trying to escape. We get a big old fight between them in the lab, which is a big whole
bit of a Donnybrook.
Huh?
Bit of a Donnybrook they have there.
A Donnybrook. And we see Wolverine's new ability does allow him to defeat Sabretooth, which he does.
Which I know this is like, I think it's what, PG-13 or Peggy 12 in the
yeah, that's UK. Right. We got the Peggy 12.
Peggy 12.
Yeah. Wolverine throws him through a window. They fall like a couple stories, and Wolverine's claws are actually impaled into Sabretooth, and then they come out completely bloodless.
Yeah.
I guess they're coated with like Teflon or something. Because there's no attempt to even hide the fact that he's
adamantium is frictionless.
Little known ability about Sabretooth, he has no blood.
Okay.
That's why it doesn't really hurt when the claws pop out of Wolverine. There's just like there's no friction there. It's smooth. It's a smooth cut.
His blood is air.
Yeah.
So anyway, after Wolverine kills Sabretooth, it doesn't kill him. He just like
knocks him out.
and just is still going to try to leave. Like he's like, I'm not like there are all these mutants that are hidden in cages all over this place. He's like, I'm just going home. I don't want any part of this. I'm not going to save anybody.
This is another one of those wonderful cinematic moments because Kayla's like, you have to save my sister. Where is she? Camera pans over. It's like 3 feet away from
right over there. The door's
that's
right
convenient.
Yeah.
She just so happens to be Emma Frost.
Well, this is where Kayla tells him that she did love him. Apparently, Bryan Singer said, and he was an executive producer on this, that she's not supposed to be the White Queen, but her name is Emma, and her powers are exactly the same. So,
well, she doesn't have telepathy that we know.
Well, we didn't see that, but we didn't have much time to see that.
Oh, she's young. Her powers haven't evolved yet.
Yeah,
like they do in the 60s when she's
the White Queen.
She's the White Queen in the
shut up,
class.
Sandro. so, there's a lot of that. Like we're gonna have to ignore a lot of that. Like you really just have to think they started over again, and then briefly touch this again with the future past. But
see, when they did it, I thought that was the point. When they launched First Class, I thought they were that, but then they put Wolverine in it. But
because of the money, they need to make the money. They need Wolverine for the money.
That's
even
Marvel. They like their different universes.
Even shoehorning the fact that they like Jean and Scott were around when he got the adamantium, which makes no sense. Like, so for no reason, like they just threw him in that movie for no real reason in Apocalypse. Like it just made no sense. So anyway, so all the mutants that are being held in cages, and I'll bring up some of these mutants later because you can guess who some of them are. I guess based on how
one of them Toad.
Probably,
I think so.
One of them's probably Quicksilver. One of them's probably Psylocke. There's a few in there.
Oh, so I didn't notice the Psylocke.
There's a girl with blue, Asian girl with like blue and black, like a black hair with the blue streaks through it. Like
could be Jubilee.
I think it's
Armor.
So basically, they go back to save the kids. They're confronted with Stryker, who we found out the reason for this whole subterfuge, every single part of this, was because they needed all the right mutants that had the right powers to work perfectly in a new experiment that'll combine all the powers into one being. This still
isn't the same stupid plot they use in Logan.
This is still doesn't explain why they put the adamantium skeleton on Logan, because they can't do it to this guy, or did they? But why did it's not like they, because when Sabretooth killed Wraith, he he's taken like his DNA out with a little thing that we would assume is being used added to the pool, as we're going to learn soon enough. So why would putting the metal skeleton on Wolverine give them what they need to know they can put it on him? I guess that maybe that's it, but also Stryker says later in the future that I didn't think there's anybody else like you, and you literally made another one like him right away.
My theory is that they were using Wolverine as a guinea pig to see if his healing factor could withstand the adamantium process, and that they were going to harvest the healing factor. Because when Stryker does release Weapon 11, because I refuse to.
Well, look, here it is.
Well, actually, that makes a lot of sense. Which that also
there's the monstrosity there.
That also explains why they didn't use Sabretooth for the procedure. Because if they thought he wouldn't survive it, then
they don't think his healing is as potent, and they don't think that he's going to survive.
But if they want to see if they could use his healing factor to make the pool,
no,
Weapon 11, then it makes more sense to use Wolverine because they want to keep Sabretooth alive because he's a loyal soldier. So if Wolverine died in the process, then then they're not sacrificing Sabretooth. That actually fills in a lot of blanks for this.
And when
he's a pool of dead people, it?
No,
yeah. But then how does Wolverine? But then they didn't kill Wolverine if they need to kill the mutants to get their abilities. I guess they don't need to, but
no, I think it's just easier to take it from them dead. But when Stryker releases Weapon 11 in this scene to go after them, that female scientist, I don't think she has a name.
No, I would have thought she was with Hudson. That's what I would have guessed until I saw that the old couple was.
Not sure, but she actually says the bonding process hasn't been completed.
Yeah.
Right.
And Stryker tells her to just release him anyway. So I guess they hadn't finished the adamantium at that point.
Well, they still have stuff drawn on them that they still want to do. Like they haven't made those cuts yet.
Oh, yeah. And also the he does have a version of the claws that's a sword that also looks to be adamantium.
Like, did they just sew his mouth shut because he never shuts up? Or,
I guess them saying,
like,
yeah,
is that what
yeah.
this-
There's no real reason. I guess them saying that explains why they're able to cut his head off. Because why else?
And why
would they
does
be able
he
cut
have
his
to
head
have
off?
Cyclops powers?
Well, why does he need to have all of this?
What,
So, okay, so
why
here
is
we
he
go.
here? Why?
Here
Did
we
you
go.
guys
We're
think
almost
this
done.
looked silly as shit?
Yes. Oh yeah. Like, why do that? Why slow yourself down just to be cool? Like,
Oh, he's opening all the cages as he goes.
Yeah, he's
true,
opening
I
the
guess.
cages.
That's true.
But it
It's
still
just,
looks
yeah.
silly.
So they activate Weapon 11, which we now know is Wade Wilson. They said that Wade was killed earlier by the same person killed Bradley, but obviously they were lying. So we learned that they using Wade for this project. They sewed his mouth shut. Wolverine makes a little joke.
Do you
about
think
how
he
they-
volunteered?
I doubt it. But Wolverine makes a joke about how he, they finally found a way to shut him up. So Wolverine extends his claws to fight him. He extends like a sword thing that comes out of his hands, like Wolverine's, but it's a sword. Wolverine does the thing where he runs down and lets them all out. We see all the mutants escaping. Like Kayla's trying to save all the mutants. Wolverine gets in this big old fight with Deadpool. And
Those swords don't make any sense.
No, yeah. Where do they hit? Where are they hidden in his body?
If they're in his arms and adamantium doesn't bend, they're way too long.
Yeah.
Well, how does Baraka do it? He's basically Baraka, isn't he?
You only
Mortal Kombat.
Well, number one, you would never be able to use your wrist.
No.
Although I don't know how Wolverine can use his wrist.
No, it's because like he has to straighten his wrist to pop his claws, but once they're out, they're past his wrist. But when they're back in, they're below his wrist.
But how do they attach to his body inside his skeletal frame?
Oh, they're like so like there's like the two wrist bones, and they sort of collapse together, and they just sort of sit in like this kind of pocket in between those bones.
Well, I don't
see it like they show it.
I don't accept that because the structure here that will let you do that. I mean, this is dumb comic book stuff, whatever. But like whatever moves it from there to here has to be bendy. Is that just like some kind of to let the wrist do its thing? Because it has to slide from back here in his forearm to out of his hand.
Yeah.
So, anywho, maybe
like how they pop out, I can get, but how does he suck them back in?
Yeah.
That's
so
hard.
Maybe it's some kind of weird extra organ that Logan has because he's a mutant.
But it is serious Weapon X technology too. I suppose a pop in, pop out mechanism isn't out of their grasp.
So, we see Kayla and her sister Emma, who has White Queen powers, essentially.
Who's not White Queen.
Rescuing all the kids, one of being Cyclops, but he has his eyes covered by metal things, so he can't really see what's going on, which is why he doesn't recognize Wolverine later.
But he's the guy who knows the way out.
Wolverine manages, he gets a sense of where they should be. Well, we'll find that out in a minute.
No,
so he gets a sense of what corners they should turn to get out of there, and nobody really understands why, but he seems to know. Then Wolverine's still fighting outside with Deadpool, who Wolverine climbs one of the reactors.
Why do they have to fight on top of a reactor?
Because it's cool.
So dumb.
It's cool.
It's so dumb. When he comes busting out of that fire in the motorbike, I was just like, I almost shut the movie off. I had to stop myself from shutting the movie off. I'm like, I can just pretend I watched the rest of this movie, right? They'll never know. But no, for the ex-goons, I can't.
No, because you'd never be able to imagine this stuff that actually happened if you didn't watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Man.
So during the big old fight, it looks like Wolverine might like you see Deadpool use teleporting abilities. He has eye beams, and the eye beams make Blackburn square diamonds over his eyes, like the Deadpool we know from the comics.
Why not just put him in a mask? They were so afraid of costumes in this era.
Yeah,
but this movie is after Iron Man. There's no need for it. They should have known if they had just put Deadpool in the costume, people would lose their shit. Like,
so using
it made no sense, that fear of the industry back then. It's so strange.
Just before he's about to be decapitated, like he's basically a Terminator. Like you see Stryker like hitting buttons on a keyboard that tell him to decapitate Wolverine, like while he's
fighting. He can see through Deadpool's eyes.
Yeah. So just as he's about to do that, Sabretooth makes the save and says, "Well, only I'm allowed to kill you." Like a guy that is just a bloodlust monster. They do mention that he felt hurt when Jimmy left a few times, like when he calls him Jimmy. I did forget. I glossed over a few things. So Kayla and Logan, she tells him a story about a indigenous myth about a Wolverine trickster god. And that was why he chose the name Wolverine for his dog tags when they made him Wolverine. And why that, but and why they call him Logan, I think, is that explained in this as well? They do at some point. Someone calls him Logan, and that's what he sticks with. Oh, because he used it as a code name. He didn't want to give his real name when he met Gambit. He introduced himself as Logan. So that, and then we'll get to that later. That explains. So like that's where Logan comes from.
Except Logan is on the other side of the dog tags, and he had the dog tags before he met Gambit.
Right. Yeah.
They flip over the dog
God,
tags.
nothing
later.
in this movie makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So anyway, during the fight, Wolverine manages to cut Deadpool's head off, which falls in the silo while doing the Cyclops beams and fucking up the silo. This explains.
Oh my god, that was so dumb.
Because they weren't able to.
That's the only reason they gave him Cyclops powers. Like they came up with these stupid action set pieces they wanted, which weren't even good anyway, and then just like formed the movie around those action set pieces.
Yeah.
They're like, we need a bike flipping it, like busting out of an exploding barn. We need something with Cyclops powers. Maybe we can decapitate Cyclops. We'll see how the story goes. And spin down a nuclear reactor, because that would be, you've never seen that before. We'll get an Oscar for that shit. Like, my God.
Yeah, it's not good. So ends with that. Then Sabretooth, the whole thing falls apart. Basically, Sabretooth gets away and then struggle. I don't know why Sabretooth cares so much, but anyway.
Now it's convenient for him.
Exactly. So after all this happens, he
Gambit saves him by breaking the falling debris.
Oh my god, he just comes in with his back. Why does he need to backflip or front flip?
It looks like Wolverine's going to be crushed by one of the silos, but Gambit comes through and saves him.
And how did Gambit know that him hitting
power.
it with a stick, even kinetically charged, would break it up enough that it wouldn't kill him? And like even Wolverine anyway.
Wolverine says Gambit to help Kayla and the kids get off the island. But when she was trying to get away, she was shot by Stryker, I think. Is that what I'm missing?
No, she was shot earlier when the kids were
Right. During the when the kids were escaping and they were getting away from guards that were shooting at them, she told them to go ahead because she got shot. But like every movie, someone gets shot over here and they're fine for a little while until they're not.
And she hides it from Emma and tells her to lead them out of there. She has to go back because she doesn't want to reveal the wound that she's taken.
So Wolverine's Logan senses her, runs over, finds her basically dying on the ground. While he's with her, he gets attacked by Stryker, who has the adamantium bullet we saw loaded earlier. And basically, he explained earlier that shooting Wolverine through the brain with it will cause his healing fat. His brain will reconstitute, but his memories won't. So he'll forget whatever his memories were.
Why?
So
just because.
How does
we
memory
ran
work?
the tests on this?
This one doesn't bother me as much. I guess if the brain was obliterated and then it reformed. If you had an arm and you lost it,
doesn't it reform as it was? Like,
not necessarily. I don't think your memories are like etched in your brain. I guess they are.
No, but they kind of are. Or how would they be there?
Electric nodes and cells, isn't it? So if the cells were destroyed or blown out the back of his head, which they don't seem to be, because there's no blood.
Ignore the fact that the adamantium skeleton stops the bullets because they're just sitting on his forehead. So they didn't actually penetrate the skeleton.
Yeah,
I guess
just gave him a concussion.
Big concussion. Yeah.
Well, no, but because like the belief was that Deadpool could decapitate him because it was adamantium on adamantium. But then why when they fight do their blades just not go through each other? Like when the
one has to be sharper than the other. Mm.
So anyway, he manages to shoot him in the head, knock him down, and then shoot him point blank in the head. He's going to try to kill him again, I guess, but then he's stopped by Kayla, who uses her powers from the ground to make him put the gun to his own head, which is so dumb because she's like, I can make you kill yourself, but then I'd be no better than you. So throw the gun away. Oh my God,
every shitty movie has to have
throw the gun away and walk until your feet bleed, and then he just turns and walks off. So she dies. Wolverine comes.
I thought that was a fun punishment. Actually, she's just like, walk until your feet bleed and then keep walking. I thought that was pretty funny. Not nearly a good enough punishment for the things he's done. She should have just killed him. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
He's
So
about to die. Just leave your morality at the door.
Yeah.
So he finds his dog tag, sees Logan on it, thinks that's his name. Basically, doesn't really. And Wolverine on the other side. Then Gambit comes to him, asks if he's okay. He doesn't recognize Gambit. He has no memories of anything before now. Logan says, Gambit says he's here to help him, and calls him Logan. So he kind of thinks his name's Logan. He asks him if he knew the dead woman. He says he didn't, but he's going to go his own way. So they go their separate ways, and then that's the end of the movie. And then we get one cut sequence where we see that Stryker gets arrested by the military police for killing his
general
officer, but that doesn't seem to play in. Well, he said he's being detained for questioning relating to the death of the general, which doesn't explain at all. Like if
he's talking to the president in X2,
in totally fine military scientist in X2 with no spotted record apparently. And then
presidential advisor, nonetheless. Yeah.
We get a very brief cutscene to see that Deadpool's body is trying to reach its head through the rubble, and its mouth is ripped open in the battle, and it looks at us and says "shh," which is dumb. So, end of movie. End of movie.
Well,
it's over.
What you think they doing up there? Well, let's you got your let's rate this thing.
Yeah, let's rate this movie.
Each of us will have to look into his own heart and decide.
Well, Sandro, you're a guest, so maybe you shall look into your heart and decide first. How you think about that?
Oh, what rating scale are we using?
1 to
X. X being 10.
Okay, this is a 1. Congratulations, you made a movie.
That's true. You get 1 for making a movie.
You get 1 point for making a movie.
Made a movie.
They honestly, finished it.
Even the first 45 minutes that you claim was okay, has so many problems. Like
it does, I guess.
So many
problems. Yeah, for sure. But after seeing X-Men 3, I guess the bar is so low. Like I said, I feel like the bar for movies has gotten lower. And because of that, aspects of this didn't bother me as much as they did in the past. Probably because I've seen so many bad movies since I was a teenager till now.
But I don't understand about. You go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I watched it when I was younger-ish when the movie came out, and I was disappointed by it because I thought that X and X2 had decent quality, and then the third one was terrible.
I agree. Okay, I was in the same way.
They'll redeem themselves here. And then I watched the movie, like I said, 3 times this weekend. And even after the first time, I'm like, why'd they even go on this trip to Africa to get the adamantium? But they're killing innocent people to get it from a crime lord that seems to just call it a bauble and willing to give it away. None of this makes any sense whatsoever. I mean, we're watching that scene and Sabretooth runs up to the top of the building when it's his turn and then doesn't do anything. Why is he up there? I don't know. Dukes punches up the tank and the guy can see through the periscope down the barrel of the tank. There's just problems everywhere in this movie. It doesn't make
cool,
any sense.
Sandro. It's cool.
Maybe you don't appreciate how cool this movie is.
It's so cool.
They're an elite team that just walks up to the front gate with no covert operations at all.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's dumb. Real dumb.
All right, André, what does your heart say?
Man, it's worse than X-Men 3, that's for sure. And I give that a 4.
I didn't think it was gonna be necessarily.
Did I give it a 4? Yeah, X-Men 3. Yeah, let's give this a 3. It's bad. It's not good. It's full of cliched. I mean, Hugh Jackman's fine. He actually is a decent. His acting is good.
And Lee Schreiber's good.
Lee
Schreiber is honestly a saving grace for this movie.
Yeah, I think
can only polish a turd so much.
When I heard that he was being cast as Sabretooth, obviously I had the whole Taylor Maine casting in my mind, and I thought Liev Schreiber, he's not going to be good as Sabretooth. Appearance aside, his delivery and his personality in this is probably the best performance in the movie. And I'd watch, if you did X-Men Origins Sabretooth with Liev Schreiber as the character, I would check that out, even knowing what happens in this movie.
Oh, for those keeping score at home, I did forget to mention the kids were rescued from the island by Professor Xavier. That's how Cyclops knew which way to go. He's being influenced by Xavier, who de-aged Picard shows up and saves them.
And Xavier seems to not.
They're going to go after their school
on that island at all.
He didn't.
I think Liev Schreiber is easily the second best Sabretooth after the great Don Franks.
Oh yes, the one from the cartoon.
You know what? If it's all right, I'm going to change my vote to a 2. And the 1 point is strictly for Liev Schreiber for
That's
how
fair.
good he was.
Schreiber deserves it. Schreiber deserves it.
I think it's getting a 2 from me for the same reason.
Well, I don't, man. Why do I have to give it 3? It seems like I liked it more. Now I'll leave it 3. It's fine. It's not that great of it. It had its problems, and a lot of the people involved with this movie admitted it had problems. So,
I mean, I know you guys like to do likes and dislikes.
Yep.
Nah, we kind of did it all through the episode.
Likes is very difficult with this movie.
Yeah. Oh, dislikes would be like 50 things long. So
it's sort of easier to do it as you go through the movie because then you see the scenes that you dislike and can bring them up.
But so far, Wolverine Origins easily our worst rated movie at a 2.3, followed by Generation X at a 4 and X-Men Last Stand at a 4.3. X2's got an 8.
X2's great.
So that's something
one, for sure. So far, anyway, but I'm pretty sure. Well, I mean, if you count Logan and stuff, Logan's pretty great too. But X2,
I don't know. I don't think Logan's going to hold up. We're going to see.
No, we'll find out.
Are you guys
after watching X-Men Origins? I realized that they're basically the same movie. It's just somebody like trying to get a bunch of young mutants together to steal their powers. It's
definitely done much better in Logan.
It's better than Origins, but like I can't believe they just made the same movie again with like an old Wolverine and Professor X. But
all right.
I think you guys are going to be hard pressed to find a worse movie in this series unless you are covering New Mutants.
I like New Mutants, but it's been a while.
I like New Mutants better than this.
It's been a while.
I watched New Mutants once, and
I can't wait to see you guys revisit that one. Then
we'll see. Well, we got X-Man Dan on that for that one. He'll be positive on it. So we'll have that at least counterbalance.
You got that Demon Bear thing. We got the
Demon Bear.
We got I can't remember the name of the actor. The guy who played Slipknot in Suicide Squad. He's like every time they need an indigenous actor, like a middle-aged male indigenous actor in movies, it's always him. Adam Beach. It's always him every single time. Every single time they need an indigenous actor. And it's funny because I was waiting for him in the movie because she talks about her dad a bunch, and then when he finally showed up, I'm like, Adam Beach. It's who I knew it would be.
Give me an Adam Beach.
So good. Is he an Echo? I feel like he should be an Echo.
No, he's not an Echo.
I haven't got a chance to watch that yet. So
Echo's mostly the cast of Reservation Dogs, which is a great show.
Because the guy who played her dad is in it again, right? Big. I can't remember his name. I really like that.
I forget his name too. He's a really good actor.
Zane something. It's Zane something.
Yeah.
He's if you ever watch the show Fargo, I highly suggest the TV show. He's in season 2 and he's fantastic.
Oh yeah,
fantastic! He should have won every award for that one.
Yep.
All right, you ready for a heaping ton of X points about this movie?
Let's do it. Well, hold on. We have theme music for these types of things.
There's a lot of them, so you can feel free to jump in if you have something to say.
Oh my God, really? Okay, go for it.
So Liev Schreiber was given a muscle suit like Vinnie Jones was for this movie, and didn't want to do that because he felt bad about not actually being in the shape and wanted the time to get in shape, which he did. Apparently, he gained.
So they didn't use the muscle suit, right?
No, they did not. No.
Yeah, no, he looked good, man. He looks menacing and big, and
Hugh Jackman helped him with his diet and everything to get into the shape he was in.
Hugh Jackman knows how to get jacked, man.
Well, when they go to Africa, there was a scene that was cut but is visible on the DVD of a young black girl with white hair watching what's going on in Africa. That was a little nod to Storm that was removed from the final cut.
I am so thankful they cut my beloved Storm out of this shit.
That deleted scene doesn't make any sense at all.
Really? Awesome.
Because when they show it, she's just standing like in the middle of when Jimmy walks away from all of them. She's just kind of standing there, and they're just like ignoring her. Like,
it's so weird to call Wolverine Jimmy. It just seems so strange to me.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all.
Because Sabretooth calls him Jimmy throughout the whole movie. It just seems so weird.
Yeah,
it's James Howlett, Jimmy.
Jimmy. It just seems weird, especially being that when they were kids, which is basically like Victorian times, they were like, you didn't use words like Jimmy.
Yeah, if only.
Did they say when it was? Didn't they say it was like the 1840s or something like that?
Which is like Victorian. That's when Frankenstein was written. It's like the Victorian times.
If only you guys didn't review a cartoon where he always called him Runt that we couldn't have pulled from.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's also like what were they doing? Because when was the Civil War? What year was that?
Oh, like 1876 or something like that.
So 30 years after they kill their origin story at the beginning, they go join this American Civil War and then hang around for I guess it was another 20, 30 years for World War One.
Yeah.
Another
40 years.
So Hugh Jackman recommended Liev Schreiber because they worked together on Kate and Leopold and became friends. For playing Sabretooth. Tyler Mane did audition, but they wanted to go with a younger version, so they didn't use him. Or he wanted to audition.
Younger version?
Yeah, I know. Tyler Mane was fine, but he's more of a monster than an actual character.
Was he super old? What do you mean younger version?
Yeah, I guess they wanted like a more of an actor. Because Tyler Mane was mostly a wrestler and a stunt guy.
Yeah, he's a wrestler, yeah. Liev Schreiber was the right choice. I can't imagine this movie. Imagine if this was Tyler Mane in this movie. How much worse this movie would.
There are a few other people that were up for it. I'll get to that too.
Tyler Mane.
Gambit, Cyclops, and Emma are the only credited prisoners on Stryker's Island. But based on what they look like, we have Quicksilver, probably white-haired boy who violently thrashed around his cage, being held by elastic straps. Banshee, who has a tape over his mouth.
Banshee, I didn't see that.
Okay. Toad, who has the amphibious tongue. Psylocke, an East Asian girl with blue and purple streaks in her hair. Whirlwind, a young man spinning as a tornado in his cage.
Oh, wow.
Some people,
they went with the Masters of Evil villain.
Some people believe it could be Riptide. It's up.
Oh, it's definitely Riptide. It's Riptide.
And Dust, a South Asian girl seen frozen in her cage.
Oh, wow. Dust.
They did just some stuff with the Deadpool movie, which doesn't really matter. Apparently, every Friday throw production, Hugh Jackman would give the entire cast and crew lottery tickets. Nobody won anything.
You could have just gave them the money you spent on those lottery tickets. Jack.
So I remember this happening. You guys must too. But March 31st of 2009, a bootleg copy of this movie leaked online. The copy had no watermark, unfinished alternate visual effects, and a different fonts for the credits. But by the time the movie officially released in the theaters, it had been downloaded about 4.5 million times. Roger Friedman, a reporter for Fox News, wrote an adverse review for the movie based on the leaked copy. He even described how easy it was to find and download the movie in his review. And the review was immediately removed and he was fired.
Oh, that's legendary. I love it.
Pretty bad.
The early days of the internet was the Wild West, man. We didn't know what was legal.
We didn't know what was going on, man.
If you could get it, you did.
We were downloading Wolverine on LimeWire, and we were having a good time. Wolverine Origins on LimeWire. Hugh Jackman regretted the movie.
Thanks, Metallica. Anyway,
Hugh Jackman hated the movie. They got rid of Napster. Hugh Jackman hated the movie and was happy to go back with the Wolverine and try to redeem some of what happened in this one.
It's better than this.
I liked the Wolverine when I saw it. It's been a while, but we'll see.
I liked the Wolverine when I saw it up until the Silver Samurai, and we'll see how it all plays.
Well, you always need to throw in that fucking comic book villain at the end.
And the shit third act. Why do they have to just like? No one ever can finish a movie. People figure out a good idea for the start of a movie, and then
you should really start with the end and work backwards. That's the key. Yeah. So Brian Cox wanted to reprise his role as Stryker using the de-aging technology, but the filmmakers thought it would be easier and cheaper to cast a younger actor. So they got Danny Huston.
And he was good.
He was fine, but I don't know. Brian Cox.
He's no Brian Cox.
Yeah. So Scott Adkins, who's a notable action star, most people may be familiar with, did the doubling for Deadpool and played because Ryan Reynolds was off doing something else at the last part of the movie.
Two guys, a girl, in a pizza place.
No, I don't think it was that. But so all the scenes where you see Reynolds' face were filmed months after the big fight scene. They used Scott Adkins in all the actual fight sequences.
No wonder he looks so much older.
How's that?
I just learned that this week when I was looking this up that it was Scott Adkins, which I found absolutely hilarious because when we reviewed Accident Man on our channel, I was constantly referring to him as British Ryan Reynolds, but I didn't know that he did this role. And then when I looked it up, I was like, this is absolutely amazing.
You're a prophet.
Yeah.
Of the past.
Of the past. Well, bring it back someday. Will.i.am was a big fan of Nightcrawler, which is why he wanted a character that had powers similar to Nightcrawler for his role.
What a great reason to put a character in a movie.
Hugh Jackman earned $25 million for this movie. So we know why he did it.
We know why he did it, yeah.
The blob suit took like 7 hours to get into and 4 hours to get out of. They had a cooling system in it with ice water, so Kevin Durant didn't die. They tried to put Gambit.
Easier ways to do these things, people. Who are these overly complicated freaking people designing this shit?
They've been trying to put Gambit in an X-Men movie for years. First time they got a chance to do so.
That was the Wolverine Origins movie. That's their first chance to put Gambit in an X-Men movie, because the first 3 X-Men movies didn't want to have anything to do with the X-Men, which is my big complaint.
I think I preferred his appearance in X2, where it was just the name Remy LeBeau on a screen.
Yep,
I did too.
It's much better justice.
Yeah, and just Beast.
They spelled it perfectly.
Beast in human form on a TV.
So played by like Steve Bakic from Andromeda.
Oh, was that who? Oh, wow, that's who it was. So
he played in Telemachus Rade.
On the rear window of the Hudson's truck, there's a sticker that reads "Not all who wander are lost," which is a little paraphrase from Lord of the Rings. Aragorn says something similar. David Harbour of Stranger Things fame and Hellboy the remake fame auditioned to play the Blob,
and they said he was too big to play.
He was too fat to play the Blob. Probably because I
don't understand the world and universe in which this movie was made.
He would have been a great Blob.
I feel like the laws of physics are even different.
He would have been a great Blob, but maybe because they wanted him to be in good shape for that first part. But apparently,
why?
I know. I
don't understand this
they couldn't
movie.
Just have him be the Blob the whole time. Like, why was he just a Blob the whole time? It would have been funnier. It would have been fine.
Because a Blob can't be on a military strike force, André.
So give him some baggy clothing.
He's like a tank.
It's not that difficult.
Let me see.
Oh boy.
Daniel and Negreanu was in it.
Best part of the movie.
Yeah. There's a few other little notes here that were kind of interesting. The Silver Cross pin I mentioned. Oh, yes. Michael C. Hall of Dexter fame was considered for the role of William Stryker. He would have been good in that role too. Yeah, he would have been, but that would have been like 6 feet under. No, it would have been after 6 feet under. It would have been during Dexter time.
Really?
Well, Dexter 2009 when this movie came out. So,
apparently sort of similar.
He could have pulled it off. He plays a lunatic pretty well. The movie was delayed by weather, and Hugh Jackman was filming the movie Australia, and that kind of impacted how this got filmed. Liev Schreiber was considered for the role of Stryker, apparently at one point, but stuck with Creed.
You want to be Stryker? We're not really feeling you Stryker. Do you want to be Sabretooth?
Apparently, Edgar Wright was offered the role of Bradley or Bolt, Chris Bradley, but he.
You mean the director, Edgar Wright?
Yes, but he didn't feel like he was a strong enough actor, and he declined
to play Bradley. He wasn't a strong enough actor to play Bradley.
For the barely scenes he's in it. Carl Urban and Gerald Butler were considered for the part of Victor Creed as well, which both would have probably been all right.
I can't really see Jerry Butler as
Jerry. I know him so well. I call him Jerry. We're good friends.
I call him Jerry.
Me and Jer.
J-Butts, we call him sometimes.
Gavin Hood is South African, and apparently Hugh Jackman recommended him direct this movie because of a movie he did called Tatsi from 2005. There were some problems on set with the producers and him disagreeing with the tone of the film and how they wanted it to go. Which is all that.
Yeah, whose idea was this movie? Like, that's what we need to know here. Like, I understand that they put all their effort in the first 3 X-Men movies into Wolverine. So they're like, let's just discard the X-Men and just do Wolverine. Maybe we can even do 3 Wolverine movies in a row. That would make us happier because we don't like the X-Men. So
Cody Smith McPhee was considered for the role of young James Howlett, but turned it down.
He had been like 4.
It was the same time he did the movie The Road, which is why he didn't do this.
Okay.
Which is a fantastic fucking movie.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
So if you ever do post-apocalyptic movies, Davan, you should throw that one in there on your other podcast.
Yeah, well, you're joining us for Giant Monsters. You got to pick a giant monster movie.
Am I?
Yeah.
Did I say
That's
this?
your idea.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'll do that. Hugh Jackman and Liev Schreiber did about 95% of their own stunts. Chris Hemsworth.
Well, I think I read something recently where he said like he's the role of Wolverine has messed up his body to the point where it's kind of like limited him in other roles he could have gotten otherwise because he's like all crippled from playing Wolverine.
Chris Hemsworth auditioned for the part of Gambit.
What?
Didn't get it. Yeah, but didn't get it. Michelle.
I mean,
Monaghan,
no, he's not the right choice for Gambit, but
no,
it's just amazing to think that like Taylor Kitsch beat Chris Hemsworth at something.
Michelle Monaghan was offered the role of Kayla Silverfox, but turned it down to scheduling conflicts. Rob Liefeld hated the version of Deadpool and demanded Fox do reshoots, which they obviously did not.
I can't believe somebody actually should have listened to Rob Liefeld. No,
Logan was scripted to actually kill Agent Zero by stabbing him, but they thought that was too violent, which is why they did the Sparky thing. Which also was pretty
for a Wolverine movie, sure.
Maggie Q was considered for the role of Silver Fox. David Ayer of
freaking out back there, Cat. Get out of here. Sorry.
David Ayer, who's a director I don't particularly care for at all, wrote an early version of the screenplay. He did the first Suicide Squad movie. He recently did that movie, The Beekeeper, which looks terrible. The Tax Collector. He's done a lot of mostly movies with gangsters in them. I think that's most of the big stuff. Yeah, that's most of the big stuff. There's some other little interesting things here, but
all right, well, let's do this instead.
You don't like the movie? Change the channel.
Oh. I have one final one I forgot. Alden Ehrenreich, who had played Han Solo in the Solo movie, had screen tested for Remy LeBeau as well, but was eventually replaced with Taylor Kitsch.
All right, well,
and Quentin Rampage Jackson turned down the role of John Wraith. So instead of Will.i.am,
so much better as Rampage. Rampage would have played a much better Wraith. Oh my God, Rampage is actually funny.
Yeah, well, he did play B.A. Baracus.
He played B.A. Baracus
in a movie that I thought was underrated, but it was a pretty good movie.
That was really good.
Yeah.
I might have to go watch that then.
It was a good one. All right.
My favorite line from the original A-Team is Mr. T's knocked out and they bring him in on like a donkey or a horse.
They always have to knock him out.
He's like, I hate you guys. First you knock me out, then you wake me up to get killed.
All right. Well, I'll because I didn't realize I forget we do this segment still on these episodes.
We don't always. I'm just
that's right.
Surprising you with it because we got a movie podcaster here.
I've already suggested it to Sandro, so I'm going to say go watch The Hidden. The Hidden, as I mentioned earlier, it's a fantastic movie. You can get it on Blu-ray with Warner Archive. Yeah, it's well worth watching. It's a great fun. If you like those sort of 80s style movies, it's a blast.
Well, my recommendation is going to be go see The Easily Seen.
Who directed this movie?
David
Who directed this movie? Oh, okay. Well, then definitely don't go watch that movie.
Sandro, do you have a movie recommendation for us off the top of your head? Perhaps something from your podcast that surprised you and wasn't as bad as you thought.
Well, I would recommend Accident Man.
Okay.
Just because
bringing it back.
Yeah, I did mention it earlier today, just with that little anecdote about Scott Adkins, but that was a movie that Ben recommended for me, and we ended up reviewing. And I went into it not knowing a thing about it, and coming out of it thinking it was like the best action movie, one of the best action movies that's come out since the year 2000. It is so well done. The choreography for the fights is fantastic. And I never hear anybody talk about it. and it's got a sequel that's just as good.
He's
Scott Adkins, and he's like a legit martial artist, so like
he is. But in this, because
he wears a hell of a fat suit in John Wick 4.
Yeah, I'd seen him in a lot of roles like that before, where it was just kind of small appearances, but never in like a leading role. In Accident Man, he takes the lead. He does do a little bit more of like the comedic side, like you would see from Ryan Reynolds, but from a British take. And both the movies, Accident Man 1 and 2, are both phenomenal, and nobody talks about them.
That's awesome. Man, sounds good. Totally down for that.
You know what? Speaking of action movies, I'm not super big into action movies, but that Monkey Man looks awesome, man. I want to see that Monkey Man movie.
Yeah,
Dev Patel, did you see the trailer for that?
Yeah, Jordan Peele's producing it or something.
Yeah, man, that looks freaking intense. I want to see it.
There's also, Atkins is a cool guy. He one of the podcasts I listened to is the best, the movies that made me, with Joe Dante and Josh Olson, and they had him on it a few times talking about action movies and stuff. He just seems like a really cool, down to earth sort of dude. Like, he does a lot of cool stuff.
Oh, we do have another quick segment we got to do here before we call her a night. Here we go.
Look one.
Hey, look who I found coming to join the party.
Glad y'all decided to join the party.
We got a party like it's apostrophe 97 because there's some rumors.
There's doings are transpiring
out there about X-Men 97, which we're all looking forward to, which is that it will drop apparently from in mid to late March. So interesting. I think that more or less works out for us with our movie reviews. Like we might have a couple movies left to review by the time that drops, but we'll see. Hopefully it flows perfectly.
That'd be nice. So mid-March, you're saying? Mid-March?
Mid to late March. I'm hoping for late. Well, selfishly, like I want it as soon as possible, but I think we might need it to be late March to sneak in more of these movie reviews.
Man, it's been such
plus our special 100th episode. Look out for that, everybody.
That's what, 4 episodes from now, is that right?
That's yep.
This is 96. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna do a radio theater of that X-Men script written in 1990 by Bob Skier with a bunch of revisions. He and I have been going back and forth. We're working on this script together.
Yeah, you're really locked into this, buddy. I feel like you may be getting a little bit of Hollywood glamour in your eyes about being able to affect the work of someone who wrote on the X-Men. It's a little bit.
Look.
when you know skill, you know talent.
I'm an influential
the man
fella.
knows talent.
Yeah, well, look. I don't get this mask for nothing.
That's true. You literally probably had to spend some money to buy it. Yes, that's correct. I don't imagine.
Yeah.
I don't imagine anybody handed it to you. You had to go to a store and pick it up, and it costs money. That's probably what happened.
They don't sell them to just anybody.
Oh, really? No. Okay.
No, sir.
Those people have to have money.
Exactly. Yeah. Anybody with money, I'm sure, has a good shot at it.
All right. Well,
I'm sorry, sir. You don't fit the profile. I'll just takes it back and puts it back on the shelf. You're more of a Cyclops.
Thanks for joining us, Sandro.
Thank you guys for having me.
Definitely welcome back again. We got lots of things. This show's never going to end, so there's lots of opportunities in the future.
Yeah, we're just going to keep watching other X-Men stuff. When we probably any other series will do X-Men and Wolverine and the X-Men or something.
If I can do this movie with you guys, I can do any of them.
Yeah, well, you literally.
Especially if you can watch it 3 times. I still can't even.
I love how you came right in on the worst possible one, and we're like enthusiastic. So much so you watch 3 of them, which is through 3.
It's a habit It's a habit I've developed for our podcast. Is just I rewatch it. Well, I try to be a little less analytical, and the first time I watch it, just watch it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
As just a
viewer, enjoy it as much as you can.
Yeah, and then the next time, or possibly third time, if I feel I need to, I'll just go through it with the more analytical side of it. So,
yeah,
right on.
Well, you
everybody check out the BS Bargain Bin podcast for sure.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check it out. That's for sure. You can support our show at patreon.com/X-Men Review Show. You can contact us at xmenreviewshow@gmail.com or just holler at me on Facebook. That's the best way. I always get back to you. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, usually within a few minutes. Find our audio-only version.
Kevin has no life. He just sits by the computer waiting for a message to come in. Please message.
It's my off season. I'm basically a stay-at-home dad in my off season. I got time to answer messages. Please like, review, and subscribe. And of course, check out ufpodcast.com where you can see all of our wonderful podcasts in our United Federation, which we are a proud member of, where we have shows such as
That's right, the Graphic Histories podcast. New episode just dropped on Monday with Paris Elaine, artist from Marvel and DC Comics. Yeah, cool guy. Really fun chat.
Made me feel a little old, but other than that, great.
Yeah, he's like, the moment I realized I wanted to draw comics was when I watched Sam Raimi's Spider-Man when I was but a boy, and I was like, oh.
No, when he's just like, you remember when Peter Parker told Aunt May that he was like Spider-Man?
In Ultimate.
But he's
Spider-Man
talking about the
13.
Ultimate Universe, and I'm like, yeah, I do remember that from like the 60s.
It's like issue 13 or something of the Ultimate comics, and that was like a big definitive issue for him when he was a young boy. And like he said, like when he was really, really young, his father gave him like this Superman comic where he had the blue and red electrical powers, so they had the blue costume. And I was like, oh god, like that was like 2000 and like 2 or 3.
That's good to be young. Enjoy the fruit of life while it's fresh from the vine, my
Oh, that is a beautiful sentiment, sir. So the next episode of my show has Craig Miller, who wrote this book, Star Wars Memories. He was a marketing consultant on a bunch of hit cult classic movies. He was Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, The Thing, The Wicker Man, The Hitcher, and a bunch of other cool movies. Oh, Return to Oz, I think, was one. Just a lot of weird, cool stuff. And
man, when I was a kid, I had a weird relationship with the Return to Oz. I loved it, but I was afraid of it, and I hated it all at once.
I had a big crush on Fairuza Balk when I was a kid, so I feel like that brought me to the party. But that was enough as a kid. But it was that movie's like a horror movie. Like that, the wheelies.
Oh, it's terrifying.
That movie's terrifying.
So it's nothing like the Wizard of Oz. So it's like as a sequel, it's so strange.
Yeah, it's like a sidequel. It's really strange. But anyway, so really cool chat. He writes for animation now, and really cool guy. We had a great talk, great chat.
Who's up after that?
Oh God, Davan, there's so many people that are coming up after that. I believe after that is
Mike Carlin. After that,
I believe Mike Carlin's after that. Mike Carlin is the editor and chief of DC Comics. I don't know if he's the editor in chief, but he's the editor of all the Superman comics in DC during the Death of Superman storyline. So we get lots of talks about that and what a crazy sort of event that was at the time. I talked to it. Yeah, it was pretty cool. But yeah, we got a lot of them in the hopper. So after him is, let me see here. We got Mike Carlin. After him is J.K. Woodward, who was great conversation with him as well. Super cool guy.
Amazing painter and cover artist.
Yes. After him is Brad Rader, who I talked to today.
Good.
And then after him is Eric Larson, creator of Savage Dragon.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and Spider-Man. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk to him too. So very cool. Lots of cool
big things happening on the Graphic Histories podcast.
Right.
It's the best interview show out there. If you're a fan of graphics, graphic novels, graphic
anything
arts,
nerdy,
animation.
We're not defined to just comics, but
not
tends to lean that way.
Yeah. Well, it's something we love, and there's a lot of.
That's true. I sure do.
I don't know, some of our other shows here on our United Federation. We got Hold Up a Movie podcast, our movie podcast, where we just did video games there. We reviewed Mario, Double Dragon.
Did you guys do Double Dragon on your show?
We
Sandro?
Sure did.
No,
you did?
No, did Sandro do it?
Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad.
I had a blast with it.
Oh, wow.
It's a bad movie. There's no denying it's bad, but I had fun with it.
Well, Robert Patrick hams it up. Like he's playing a pretty hilariously over the top villain.
Yeah, we actually did that episode with a guest, which was a friend of mine who works on my video game channel with me. So obviously we brought him on for a video game movie, and we're still friends. So we made it through that one together.
Well, I like to think we're still friends, Sandro. And after we made you watch Wolverine Origins 3 times.
Well, Sandro, what do you know what movie you're doing next on your show? Do you guys know that in advance?
Yeah. We just posted our review for Gremlins, which was supposed to be our Christmas special, but we had a bit of a delay.
One of my favorite movies.
Despite what my co-host Murphy on Hold Up will tell you, Gremlins is a great movie.
It's one of the best.
You'll have to listen to the episode to hear my thoughts on it.
Oh no, that doesn't sound
in Murphy's camp, are you? All right, we're no longer friends, Sandro. No,
and
you're dead to us.
The next episode, which new episodes come out every Monday, is actually going to be our January listener pick. Which again, we had a few delays with just real life stuff come in, so it's a little behind. It'll be a January fan pick posted in February, but it'll be on Demolition Man.
Ooh, a movie I've actually never seen. So
you've never seen Demolition Man?
I have not.
It's actually slotted into an episode of Hold Up this season, but it may get removed by the guest. So Demolition Man may not make it in, but you should go watch Demolition Man.
I'll give it a shot.
All right. And so we also have in our federation, we have Super Mater Brothers, where they review reality shows. Yeah, and we do the Mary Mater Marvel Society over there. We just reviewed our Echo.
How was it? How was it received? I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, I quite like Echo. I think it was very good myself. Yeah, go check it out. You'll like it, André. It's really good, I think. There's some great Kingpin stuff in there too.
Cool. All right, I'm on board.
And of course, we have our very, very, very various Star Trek content.
That's a lot of Star Trek
over at Live Long and Podcast, where we just did talk on Asphyx with Aaron McDonald not that long ago. We also talked to J.G. Hertzler pretty recently, the actor who plays the Martok. Yeah, and we have many divisions over there, so check it out. We got lots going on. If you love Star Trek, we got you covered. Trust me. And we have trivia debates, which we're not going to talk about. Eamon on Track. We have check that out. They do album reviews over there. And of course, the Hellbound podcast with Alex Blackburn and Michael Chan. That's our glorious federation. I don't think I have anything else to say to you guys.
Thanks, Sandro. It's great having you on, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
If you ever want a guest on your other show, let me know. I'd be happy to come on. That sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah, ditto.
More than happy to have either of you on.
All right, not together. So we only contractually obligated to meet on this show. So.
It's true. André made that very clear.
Very clear.
Yeah. Like once a week is all I got.
Just bug Ben the next time you're in the record store.
Oh man, Jesus. So every time I walk in, he just like all we do is talk about cool old movies. So, he's awesome.
André could never leave. All right,
honestly, it's hard. Next time.
Later, everybody.